Sullivan?
Yes.
Ms. Bowler?
Yes.
Ms. Laredo? Ms. Mancuso?
Hello.
Dr. Nolan? Dr. Nunez?
Here.
Ms. Yanis? Absent.
Okay, we have a quorum. There is an accident on the freeway, so we're waiting for Dr. Nolan and the judge, and the court reporter. In the meantime, I think we'll go back to our agenda from yesterday, and I'll read my board president report, which is much shorter than the last meeting. On June 15th of this year, we sent letters to the legislature regarding our support for SB 1480, the omnibus bill that has several of our provisions, and AB 2215, the Colorado marijuana bill. On June 22nd, a letter was sent to USP regarding compounding for non-sterile preparations, and that's the U.S. Pharmacopoeia. Met with on our new EO, Jessica Sieferman, on June 22nd, and I gave her background material and information on the Veterinary Medical Board and told her how wonderful it is, which she now agrees with. On June 25th, I testified at the Senate BMP Committee in support of AB 2215, the marijuana bill. And on June 18th, I was a participant in a webinar with AAVSB on the proposed changes to the Practice Act model presented by Dr. Lila Miller and James Penrod. They emphasized that the Practice Act model is a resource only and each state can make their own decisions. In September, there will be 2 votes, one on the Practice Act model without the VCPR language and a second just on the VCPR. They're asking for our board to discuss this so the delegate to the meeting in September has direction. And then last night, if I can bring it up in my email here and find it, Jennifer did send me the RVT report, which of course my iPod doesn't want to bring up. Does anybody else have it? Gmail. Okay, here, it's coming up on my phone. I got it on my phone, yeah. So this is Jennifer's RVT report. The AAVSB Veterinary Technician Educational Equivalent Subcommittee has made progress in exploring licensing pathways for graduates of foreign RVT programs. There will be a more detailed update given to the licensing boards, including our designated attendees, at the annual meeting next month in Washington, D.C. A concern was shared regarding the VTNE statistics, which help potential RVT students decide which programs will work best for them. A request was made that the stats be posted on the VMB website along with results of the CARVT exam, of the California RVT exam. I know we have difficulty, we've had difficulty in the past obtaining the results from the AAVSB, and I was not able to find the information published on their website. I would like to explore some possible solutions to this at a future meeting. The National Veterinary Technician Week is October 14th to 20th. I would like to extend a thank you to all RVTs, and I would too, for their hard work and dedication to the profession. Everyone have a wonderful end of summer, and I look forward to seeing you all in November. So that's Jennifer's RVT report. And I just got a text from Dr. Nolan that she's almost here.
Dr. Waterhouse, perhaps we can do introductions for the public as well.
Yes. So at this time, any member of the public that would like to introduce themselves? Thank you.
Oh,
Should we?
excuse me. Marilyn Jasper sent me an email that she thinks she left her power cord to her computer back here.
She got it.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, thank you.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and talk about it?
Sure.
Okay. So Jessica's going to speak. We have a glitch with our plan from yesterday as far as our teleconference. So Jessica will explain that.
So we had thought that we had enough time to meet and decide on the right decision if we met on the 10th, because we were given the 20-day timeline. What we didn't know and found out last night is that that's not enough time for the DAG to move the approval through their process. And so we are going to have a special meeting, which is a 48-hour notice meeting. So if we get it posted by tomorrow, then we can have the meeting on September 4th. It's a Tuesday. And I recommend blocking out at least an hour, but that time is flexible for your schedules. So if it's better to do it during the afternoon or at lunchtime, we can make that work. But we're just going to need to get a quorum and locations soon, today.
I'm open September 4th, today.
Okay.
It's fine for me.
And I as well.
Noon or afternoon.
Yes, I'd like afternoon as well, please.
So you have a time preference, like at 3 o'clock?
Anytime after lunch, 1,
3
2,
Okay.
3. You said 3?
3.
Yeah, that
Yes.
sounds great.
So we'll,
3 to 5 again?
3 to 4.
We
So,
just think an hour for those items?
so we can only discuss one of the items for a special meeting. We can't discuss the AAVSB because it doesn't meet the criteria under the special meetings exemption. So if we want to discuss that prior to the meeting, we will have to either hold we'll have to hold another teleconference for that item, or since a lot of the items the board has already discussed, the board could delegate authority to the executive committee to have the responses on behalf of the board. So it's what the board decides.
Is it possible to try and get the AAVSB thing done today again? Oh, I'm
I'm
sorry.
going to try. I have to ask him, but that would be the default.
Cross that bridge by saying we wouldn't. Timing-wise, I don't know.
We have 3 petitions and 8.
Yeah,
So-
I understand. It would have to be after all of that is done.
Yes, it would have to be after, and since there's a number of items that we didn't get to yesterday, what we could do is see how far we get in the petitions today, and then once we reconvene in open session after closed session, we can make a statement as far as what we are able to do, and what we will have to do at a next meeting, and decide at that point.
So we'll decide later.
Is
See
that
how far we
Yeah.
get.
That's for cars? Okay. So let me take.
I may have a problem with getting a location. I used the City of Laguna Beach facility last time, and now I'm running for city council, and they may think that that's partiality or something weird.
Okay, I'll
Right.
find another location.
Right.
Well, no, I mean, I might have a problem and might not be able to participate as the heads up.
Okay. We'll try to contact the city and county and see if there's any state buildings near you that we can try to get a room for you.
I mean, maybe a letter from the vet board asking if I could use that facility if it came from the vet board instead of from me or something.
I can do that.
Yeah, let's talk about that then offline. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Our diagnose still isn't here. Do you want to start with the AAVS?
She's here.
Oh.
Too.
Oh, she's here. Never mind, we can
Yeah.
get started.
Okay, here.
Good morning.
So just go right into the petitions.
That's okay. Before you start, we have to change that teleconference.
Dr. Nolan, thank you for joining us. I know you were in traffic. We had just discussed holding a special meeting on September 4th because we were not given enough time to the DAG in order for them to go through their approval process. So we're going to have to meet on the 4th, and it's for an hour, and it's teleconference. So if you have a meeting location. Oh, okay.
So I will not, don't think that will work.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
There might be public in there.
Okay, so,
Expatriates.
Expatriate.
so we just need to make sure that the board has a quorum to meet. So we have a question mark on Ms. Mancuso. Nolan will be out, and we're not sure about Ms. Laredo or Ms. Yanes. Okay.
Okay, if you want to go start the petition hearings?
Okay. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was, yeah, it just.
What'd you think of
I went to have breakfast with my sister and it was.
coming back on 50?
Yeah.
there is.
It was just twice after.
Yeah, there's actually a couple of accents, not even related to where that is, but it's just screwed up all over the place yesterday at 9:30. Me too.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break while we figure out
What we're doing.
what time the court reporter is going to be here.
She sent the notice at 9:30.
She's not sure. Okay, we're going to come out of recess. The court reporter will be here in a few minutes, possibly like 5 to 10 minutes. In the meantime, we are going to go ahead and discuss some of the AAVSB issues. There are 4 bullet points to discuss. We're not going to get through all of them. But if we could at least discuss the first one, the Resolution 2018-1 memo, and this is regarding the vault program through AAVSB. And this does have some issues that we should discuss. The other issues may be left up to the executive committee. That depends upon the pleasure of the board. But let's at least discuss the vault program. And I'll turn that over to Jessica to kind of introduce that.
So the Vault program is essentially one database that would be maintained by AAVSB, where they would send in all the data as far as like transcripts and letters of good standing. They would collect all that information, and instead of the board having to get the transcripts from all individual schools or the applicants, we can go to one place and get that information. It's not unique to other healing arts boards. BRN used something similar through their clearinghouse to get transcripts and more information from the clearinghouse. So it looks like AAVSB is moving in that direction and wants to know more information from the board, basically where they stand on it, if they believe that there's any statutes or regulations that impede it. We do have, I believe, I don't know if it was a statute or regulation, but a requirement that the information comes from the applicant, the transcripts or proof of graduation. And so we might need to do a tweak here and there in the statute or regulation, but it's up to the board.
So so that's sort of the pro side or the informational side. The other side is that are we abdicating our responsibility for investigating these applicants? Another possible disadvantage is that the applicant will have a cost to AAVSB for this, and then still a cost to us for our licensure and our application. Yes, Kathy?
I just wanted to say I actually participated in the drafting of this resolution. I was on the task force, and the resolution actually came out of a whole different resolution last fall that they had at their conference, unrelated to the vault system. But the vault program has been something that AAVSB has been working on for a number of years, and is not quite fully in place. It seems to me, and as I was working with them on that resolution, that what they're trying to do, create a repository, is a great idea as an association, and for some states, it's very important. They have very limited staff. They have very limited even discretion as far as their consumer boards, and this would be a useful place for them to go. I brought up the concerns from a California's perspective, just in thinking about things, is we have a very strong regulatory consumer protection system here in California, and we have a real obligation of due diligence to go get the information ourselves. We have a strong staff to do that, things like that. And the vault might not be as critical for a larger state like California as it might be for other places. And I also did ask about the cost, because obviously our fees help us with the resources to do the research and create the system, and we're not going to lower our fees in terms of that. So this is a prospective thing. They're working very hard on it, and it sounds like it's going to include other things other than transcripts And, I thought part of their intention was also to keep other documents in there that would be a one-stop shop for some boards. So it's something that will be, I think, useful to smaller states and less resource-driven boards than it would be to California, but that's basically the resource. And they are asking at the end of that resolution for all the states' thoughts on what would be impediments, what would be useful, and what other things that AAVSB could produce and be helpful with for all state boards as an association.
Dr. Sullivan?
In reading it, my concern was actually the graduates and the applicants. I'm hoping this is a voluntary thing, as opposed to their database on disciplinary cases. I can see where that's a great event of a clearinghouse on people that have had infractions, but this looks to me like a lot of personal data collected in one spot that gives them quite a bit of influence and power, and that bothers me unless it is totally voluntary by the applicants. I'm a little concerned if it's mandatory.
Yeah,
Yes?
I don't think it would be helpful to us because we're already doing that on our own. We don't need that extra resource, but I think it potentially could be easier for an applicant, especially if they're considering applying to other states. They won't have to gather their transcripts again and all that stuff. It's all in one place. So I would be in favor of it just because it would be easier for an applicant.
If it's voluntary.
If it's voluntary.
Judy?
I was just wondering, do we know the cost that we would incur as a board,
I don't believe.
That question, I asked that question, I don't know that's true. My understanding was that the applicants would now incur that cost. It would not be sent to the boards, but then I said, well, then the applicants are going to say to all the boards, we have these multiple fees to pay. And
do you know
So
what
we
the
don't
fee
know.
was to the applicant? No.
I don't
Okay.
know that it's launched. I don't
Okay.
think it is launched.
I don't think so either.
So, I was kind of wary
you.
about it.
Dr. Sullivan?
We do have an experience with with our RVT people. I mean, their big push to do the national test was to cut the cost of the state test, and we still have to have the state test. So I don't think we're going to be reducing any costs by this program, so I think it'd be expensive. If it's voluntary, I don't have any problem with it. I think it's a good way to store data, but I get a little nervous if it's mandatory and the applicants don't have a choice.
Dr. Nolan?
Well, any way to find out if it is going to be voluntary? I didn't hear that mentioned.
So I don't believe AAVSB can set mandates on the boards. And so if it were to be mandatory, it would be in our statutes to make it mandatory.
Exactly.
So if we don't do that, then it would not be mandatory, just voluntary.
And we have no influence over what the other states will do.
Correct.
They can make it mandatory themselves.
Right.
So then it's a non-issue, really? You'll learn more at AAVSB, and maybe there
Well,
could be a pro and con list or something, or do we need to make a decision today?
Well, so if the decision of the board is to make it an option for them, because right now how the structure is set up, we're going to have to do a change either in the statute or the regulation. So if the board wants to make it voluntary, we're still going to have to make a change.
So I'll move to make it, okay, Tara's got to, yeah.
Tara?
Okay, so can we please just take a look at the provision where it would require the board to submit the information to the AAVSB? Because I think it says will share.
Yeah.
It's not may.
Can you tell us what number to go to here in the book?
You have to download it.
Oh, one of those? Okay.
It's the first resolution behind the board memo.
I don't think it's not in the binder. I can't find it. I'm looking online for it, too.
No, it's not.
Can we, oh, we don't have
We
the
had to
screen to
download
put
it.
it up?
Yeah, I just wanted to read it.
Thank you.
Whereas.
Right, well, that's the whole point. That's the discomfort potentially, is that this resolution, and I think this is what Dr. Sullivan is talking about, because I'm not really clear on this language, but it says, each AAVSB member board will identify the benefits of accepting and participating in the vault program, which wouldn't be a problem, and timely reporting of license information for new licensees, as well as updated license information and disciplinary information to the data bank. So what of that is the
No, I still,
will identify and timely reporting? I wouldn't say this is clear, concise language, but if we're talking about whether or not there's the option of providing the information, especially candidate information, the term will is a problem, because that is shall. That would require every member board to give up their information.
I thought the intent when this was being drafted was to outreach to the boards, to ask them if they could identify benefits and the probably possible disadvantages for them specifically about this process. But I understand what you're talking about the will identify. I still see that as more passive rather than a mandate. It's identifying the benefits of accepting, and we might not have benefits.
Well, somebody,
in California.
Okay.
Judy?
Okay, so I think that whoever is our AAVSB expert, which it sounds like it's Kathy Bowler.
On the delegate?
Yeah,
It's you.
yeah. I think that there should be a list of pros and cons worked out, drafted, and that's what we report back to them when you guys go, don't you have an upcoming?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
have that ready to present them, and if it's onerous and costly for us, and we already
Okay, can you
have
make a
our data.
motion? Can you make a
I'd
motion?
like to make a motion that our delegate, Kathy Bowler for AAVSB,
No,
I'm not really
Jessica's the
the
delegate,
delegate.
I'm the alternate delegate.
okay, that whoever our delegates are that are getting ready to go, prepare a list of pros and cons of joining this database to be presented back to AAVSB.
Okay, is there a second?
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any comment from the public? Dr. Sullivan?
I thought the gist of this resolution was to identify any restrictions in jurisdiction, statutes, rules, and regulations related to participating in this. I thought it was more of an informational thing.
It is informational.
yeah.
So that's
I-
what?
I agree.
Pros and cons.
Can you,
That's what I'm asking for.
can you just clarify who was the second on that motion?
Dr. Nolan was.
Thank you.
And we maybe should clarify in the motion who the delegates are. I'm guessing it's Kathy and Jessica.
No, it's the
Jessica.
president
Oh,
of
Jessica.
Excel.
It's,
And- okay.
yeah, President Waterhouse and Delegate Bowler.
No.
No, it's the
No.
president
Jessica.
on the Excel.
Oh, in the Excel, I'm sorry, okay.
I was participating on that committee because I'm on the ICVA, the International Council. And that task force was created because of a resolution last year. It just morphed into this
Well,
vault
it sounds like you have
Sorry about
knowledge to
that
help.
confusion.
Okay, so, Dr. Noonan?
I assume there's no regulatory barriers that will prevent us from reporting licensing information and disciplinary action to the AAVSB?
We already do that.
That's a good question.
Yeah, there very well could be, because if this isn't a public agency, we might have a Information Practices Act problem and a CPRA issue for
So that's something
confidential
that
personal
they'll have to know
information.
before they leave. Yeah.
Don't we already participate in the disciplinary database?
Well, it's a probably limited amount of information, is it?
I don't know for sure, but I know any disciplinary actions are already public information. So it's the difference between the disciplinary action and then any other information that they would want.
Okay.
Okay, so we will look at all that. Any other comments from the public? Any other comments from the board? You call for the vote?
Dr. Waterhouse?
Yes.
Dr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Ms. Bowler?
Yes.
Ms. Laredo? Ms. Mancuso?
Yes.
Dr. Nolan?
Yes.
Dr. Nunez?
Yes.
Ms. Yanis? Okay.
Motion carries. For the rest of the AABSB issues, since we need to get going on our petitions, would anyone like to make a motion to give that to the executive committee?
I'll move.
I will second that.
Okay. Any comments from the board?
You're not going, right? So the executive committee is not going to be there.
But we're going,
Cheryl will be.
Some notes together to send.
okay.
Okay.
Can we repeat the motion?
For the other three AAB bullet points, the other three AABSB issues, those will be discussed at the executive committee for recommendations.
Okay.
Who made the motion and who seconded?
Kathy
I
made the
made the
motion.
motion.
And I seconded it.
Any comments from the public? Call for the vote?
Dr. Waterhouse?
Yes.
Dr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Ms. Bowler?
Yes.
Ms. Laredo? Ms. Mancuso?
Aye.
Dr. Nolan?
Yes.
Dr. Nunez?
Yes.
Ms. Yanis?
Motion carries. Okay, is our court reporter here? Okay, so we're going into recess to set up for our petition hearings.
Okay. Do we need to?
Judge Woolard is here for our three petition hearings, and I will turn it over to her.
Thank you. Good morning. So we're going to begin today with the petition for modification of penalty, specifically termination of probation, filed by Jessica Marie Salgado. And this is agency case 1A, 2014-31, Office of Administrative Hearings, case 2018-050187. Today is August the 30th, 2018, and it's approximately 9:44 a.m. My name is Marilyn Woolard. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I've been assigned to convene this hearing on behalf of the board. And I would ask at this time for all board members to identify themselves, and if we could begin with Ms. Bowler.
Kathleen Bowler. Jamie Nolan.
Kathleen Bowler.
Jamie Noland.
Cheryl Waterhouse.
Dick Sullivan.
Mark Nunez.
Judy Mancuso.
And a quorum of the board is present. Thank you. All right, may I have the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General?
Yes, good morning. My name is Diane Sokoloff. I'm a supervising Deputy Attorney General appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 4887 and Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you. And Ms. Salgado, you're here today and you're representing yourself, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So we had a brief opportunity before the petition hearings began to talk with the petitioners, but I wanted to review the ground rules and just give you some information about how the hearing is going to proceed today. What's very important is that the board is concerned with your rehabilitation that you have engaged in since you were placed on probation. The Deputy Attorney General will proceed first. She'll provide us an overview of the situation. After that time, Ms. Salgado, you'll have an opportunity to testify under oath before the board to provide information. When you're concluded with that, Ms. Salgado may have some questions. The board members may have some questions of you. And what I think it's important for you to realize is the board does have the benefit of your packet of information. We can go through those exhibits. It's not necessary to really go into detail over those because I have had an opportunity to read them. Under the Business and Professions Code 887 of the Veterinary Medicine Practice Act, the board may consider all activities of the petitioner since the disciplinary action was taken, the offenses for which the petitioner was disciplined, the petitioner's activities since the license or registration was in good standing, and the petitioner's rehabilitation efforts, general reputation for truth, and professional ability. So after the hearing, actually after all three of the hearings that we have today, the board will go into executive session and make a ruling on your petition. You won't have your decision issued today. You'll receive it at a later time in the mail. Any questions about how we're going to proceed?
No.
All right, thank you. Ms. Sokoloff, would you like to begin with your presentation?
Yes. However, preliminarily, I'd like to indicate that there will be two cases that I will be asking for a protective order for the documents which will be entered into evidence, and those documents are documents which are private, confidential, including some medical records. So there are two cases.
But that does not pertain to this particular case.
Actually, it does. This is
All right.
Oh, my goodness. I'm so sorry. I thought I had it on.
All right. Thank you. And if
Silent.
everyone just be
Sorry,
mindful
sorry.
of putting your phone in the off mode. Thank you. Go ahead, ma'am.
All right. So I would first I'd like to indicate that I have provided a copy of the unredacted documents to petitioner, who's sitting to my left, and I would like to mark for identification and offer into evidence Exhibit 1 of the petition packet with accompanying documents. Your Honor, have you received any packets at all from the board as a sampling of what I intend to offer into evidence?
I have a packet related specifically to Ms. Salgado in front of me, and
Okay.
it indicates attachments 1 through 5.
Okay, that should be the same document that I'll be working from.
So-
I'd like to ask that packet be marked for identification, and I'll be entering them into evidence piecemeal.
All right.
All right.
So marked.
Okay, and the board members and petitioner have been provided with a copy of the same exhibit, and these documents consist of the following. The first is a notice to appear at this hearing, and that's, if you look at the bottom right-hand corner of each page, these pages are bait stamped, it's what it's called. There is a stamp, and the VMB is on the bottom of that, and then there's a 1 through a series of documents that are included in the evidentiary packet. So this first document is the hearing notice, and it spans from pages 1 to 3. 1 through 3, I should say. And then next in order is a packet prepared by, the rest of the packet prepared by the Veterinary Medical Board, and that packet includes attachment 1, which is the certificate of license. That's 1 page, and it appears on page 4. The next in order is attachment 2, and those are certified copies of the probation quarterly reports. And that is 13 pages spanning from page 6. License certification was, I think, 2 pages, my mistake.
That's correct. It was 4 and 5.
Yes, thank you. And then the next in order is the quarterly probation reports, and that spans from page 6 through 19. The next in order is it starts on Veterinary Medical Board bait stamped page 20. And this is the portion of the document which I'd like to ask that it be submitted as with a protective order, page 20 through 27, because those documents have some medical-related information that are more appropriately submitted under seal.
And Ms. Delgado, let me ask you, do you have any objection to placing your medical documentation under seal? That's actually designed for your protection to ensure that a member of the public cannot just ask for all documents relating to these types of hearings. This is essentially a protection for your personal medical information.
No, that's fine.
All right. So Exhibit 1, Attachment 3, pages 20 through 27 will be placed under a protective order, which I'll issue after this hearing.
Great, thank you. And then next in order is indicated by attachment 4, starting at page 28, spanning through page 37, and it is the petition for reinstatement or modification of penalty. And that petition includes the documents that Ms. Salgado had seen fit to add or to include in her petition.
Ms. Salgado?
I'm sorry. Yes. Thank you. Then last in order is attachment 5, the decision, order, and stipulated settlement, Veterinary Medical Board, page 38 through 54. And I'd also like to ask, in addition to pages 20 through 27 to be under a protective order, that the pages 6 through 19 as well, because they apparently incorporate the investigative file from the Veterinary Medical Board in her probation, so that should be under seal.
All right, any objection to the request to place those documents under protective order, Ms. Salgado?
No.
All right, that will be included in the protective order.
All right, now, just to specify the documentation attached to the attachment 4, which is Ms. Salgado's petition, she included several attachments of her own. The petition specifically is 3 pages, the first 3 pages. It's actually the first 4 pages because the first page says attachment 4, and then the following 3 pages is her petition. But then after that, Ms. Salgado included a narrative dated February 23, 2018, which is 1 page. She also included her resume, which is a page. She included a work evaluation from Westminster Veterinary Group from 2017. That's 1 page. A letter of reference from TIA Greenberg, the Chief of Medicine and Surgery at Westminster Veterinary Group, dated January 27, 2018. A letter of reference from Dr. Kim Contran. Kim is KIM-KHANH, last name TRAN, the Associate Veterinarian at Westminster Veterinary Group, dated January 24th, 2018. And that concludes the documents that are contained within petitioner's petition for modification.
And let me just ask, Ms. Salgado, do you have any objection to the consideration of any of these documents by the board?
No.
All right. Exhibit 1, attachments, pages 1 through 54 are admitted.
Okay. So at this point, my understanding is that Exhibit 1 is included into evidence with pages 6 through 28 under a protective order. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So I would now like to offer a summary of Ms. Salgado's history with the board. She applied for a registered veterinary technician registration, on October 10th, 2013. And the board denied that application on January 2nd, 2014. On December 17th, 2014, the board filed a statement of issues against petitioner alleging several causes of denial. Those causes included being convicted of a DUI and driving with a suspended license on November 29th, 2014. Being convicted of another DUI on March 29th of 2000. Oh, I think, did I just say November 29th, 2014?
Yes.
I meant 2004. I apologize for that. And the second DUI was for March 29th, 2004. Third basis for denial was for her being convicted of burglary, a misdemeanor, on September 29th, 1999, and for engaging in acts involving dishonesty, fraud, or deceit based on the burglary conviction stated previously, and then for engaging in unprofessional conduct by having convictions involving alcohol, for violating the Veterinary Medicine Practice Act by committing the violations stated above, and for acts warranting discipline of licensure based on the above conduct. So those were all the bases for denial of her license. And then the board adopted a stipulated settlement and disciplinary order, which became effective on June 29th, 2015. And that settlement issued her a registration upon successful completion of the licensure examination and all other licensing requirements. Once issued, it was immediately revoked, and she was placed on probation for 3 years under certain terms and conditions, including submitting to drug testing, abstaining from controlled substances, and abstaining from alcohol use. The period of probation is July 21st, 2016 through July 21st, 2019. And all that information is contained in the attachments 5 of your packet. Ms. Salgado's petition for reduction of penalty bears the date February of 2018, but it does not reflect a specific day it was submitted. In support of her petition, she offers a narrative statement acknowledging her criminal past, including her DUIs and misdemeanor burglary conviction. She states that it has been over 13 years since her convictions. She has completed her court-ordered 5-year probation, her 18-month drug and alcohol classes, her mandated 3-year ignition interlock device. She paid probation fees, completed the community service, and served 60 days in jail. These requirements have been completed over 8 years ago, but she continues to attend AA classes and abstains from alcohol. She's completed her bachelor's degree with a degree in psychology and put herself through veterinary technician school. She's been employed for 8 years and states that her employers trust her and have known her to make good decisions. She was raised by her grandparents and cared for them through their cancer treatments and hospice care. She does not feel that the monitoring and other items she must follow is affecting a change in her life, and she's already on the right path. And the costs of probation are financially straining her. She plans to continue work as an RVT and specialize in small mammal medicine. She says that she has not had the opportunity this year to attend any continuing education classes because her work has been short-staffed and she could not leave her work. She does, however, attend conferences. The last one was in June of 2016 and participated in an avian emergency lab and exotic intubation lab. She receives today's Veterinary Practice magazine and will use the CE articles, she says, for her next renewal. Her employer is planned on sending her to the Pacific Veterinary Conference from June 28th to July 1st, 2018, and we'll find out later if that occurred. Ms. Salgado has been on probation with the Veterinary Medical Board since July 21st, 2016, as I said previously, and there have been several terms of probation that Ms. Salgado was required to comply with. One such term was submitting to drug testing. She's required to call in to a certain number each day, and she may possibly have to test that day. During her probation, she has failed to call on 17 occasions. The dates are listed on the second page of the packet. In addition, she has called to test on 42 occasions, but she did not test 11 of those occasions. On 5 of those occasions, she's offered no excuse to the board. On the remaining 6 of the 11 occasions, she provided reasons, including the locations did not have a female person to monitor the testing or work restrictions, or both. She has taken 28 drug tests, and 3 of them have come back with positive results for alcohol. She explained that for one of the tests, she had ingested Dayquil, NyQuil, and antibiotics. In her package, she also included 2 letters of recommendation from veterinarians for whom she's worked. Both speak highly of her. The board report summary reflects interviews with one of the recommenders, and the recommender said that after learning about her offenses, that recommender's positive opinion of Ms. Salgado has not changed. I'm now prepared to proceed with questions for Ms. Salgado unless the judge would prefer another procedure.
All right, I think at this time, what I'll do is place Ms. Salgado under oath and give her an opportunity to directly provide testimony and then open the questioning.
Sure.
So before I do that, Ms. Salgado, I just wanted to verify, we did have an off-the-record conversation, and I believe you indicated that you had no additional documents. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And that you had no additional witnesses, although you do have a right to call additional witnesses. You don't have any here with you today.
No.
All right. So I'm going to ask you to please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Then this will be your, I'd like to ask you first to state and spell your full name for the record.
Jessica, Jessica, Salgado, Salgado.
And ma'am, this, because you're representing yourself, you don't have the normal question-answer type of format, so I'll just allow you to speak to the board in a narrative fashion, explaining why you believe your petition should be granted if there's any additional information. And when you feel that you've had an opportunity to say what you'd like to say, let me know, and I'll then turn you over for some questioning, okay? Thank you. You can proceed. Did you have a statement, that any testimony that you'd like to provide to the board directly? You're certainly free, if you'd like to, is to rely on your information in your petition and your narrative statement. If you prefer to do that, that would be fine. But this is your opportunity if you would like to directly address the board.
Yeah, I mean, at this time, basically, just to sum up what she had read was that I feel that I've long past paid my dues a long time ago. And it's definitely not helping me to have to do these testings. When it does say that I miss calls, it's usually because the website doesn't let you check in after 3. And I get to work, I get 7 in the morning, and I'm prepping surgeries, and I have a lot of people that I'm training. By the time I'm going to lunch, I realize, oh my gosh, I forgot to check in. It's too late. If I could check in anytime until I can test, we can test till 12 at night, but we can't check in till 12 at night. So I don't find out till the next morning that I was chosen, and then by then it's too late. I've even written saying, can I just test this next morning, because what can I do to make up for that? And they basically said, you can go if you want to, but it's not going to make a difference. I'm not going to go pay an extra $100 if it's not going to make a difference. It's been better lately, but a lot of times I can't find a woman to observe my peen. So I'll call 5 places, and I'll call places within 45 minutes to an hour distance. I can't find anybody that can watch me. So I have found 2 places that are pretty good at consistently having somebody there. So I use those for the most part. It seems like it's gotten, I feel like the missed calls and the missed probably been a lot better towards the end, because I feel like either somebody fixed something in the system, because it feels like I can get a hold of a woman a lot easier now. The other things with the positive testing is that I didn't stop anything that I have at home. Like, I didn't stop any medications. I didn't stop any mouthwashes. I didn't stop. When I finally got, first of all, I only know about one of them. The one that I did get, I asked her, could it be any of these other things that I had? And she said, yes, you should have received a pamphlet of all the things that you're not allowed to have. I said, well, I never received that pamphlet. So she sent it to me, I signed it, and I sent it back to her. By then, I went through my bathroom, and there's alcohol in everything. There's alcohol in the body rub that I was using for my shoulders. There's alcohol in the mouthwashes that I was using. There's alcohol in the medications that I was taking. So I didn't know that I couldn't use those normal products that I use every day. And when I signed the thing, I threw everything out. I haven't used mouthwash since then. And I basically I don't use that. It's called BioFreeze or whatever you put on your shoulders. I don't use that product anymore either. So I just wish you would have told me that sooner, which also I feel like I've been treated like a convict of some sort. The restrictions that they have, I feel like I'm checking into an inpatient drug rehab, which to me is ridiculous for something that happened so long ago. I have my alcohol and drug counseling license. I've worked in an inpatient outpatient facility. I don't feel that I am at that point in my life anymore. When I did get those DUIs, my grandma was diagnosed with cancer, and I kind of went off the deep end for a couple months. But I did, and in my story, I did write that I started going to meetings because it was court ordered, and I stopped drinking since then. I have 2 sponsors. I've worked the steps 2 times. I've made all my amends to everybody, including my grandma in her deathbed, to tell her that this is not who you raised to be. And I apologized to her, and she was okay with that. It's not like this is something that I do all the time. I played sports, I played varsity sports, I got a scholarship. I was that kid that came home and did their math homework while watching Wheel of Fortune with my grandma. That's who I am. So, as soon as I got sober, I was able to do incredible things, including staying sober through hospice, through my grandma's death, then my grandpa who got brain cancer and breast cancer, and I was able to lead my 2 sisters and my family through that while I watched other people, have a tough time with that. The program is actually what helped me get through all of that. It made me the strong person that I am today. And I think, and I'm very thankful for that. I still am in contact with both of them. I went to one of my sponsors' weddings recently, and I pet sit for another one. I just feel like this is not me anymore, and I want to get away from it and do what I'm supposed to be doing. I live for my job. I'm there 60 hours a week. I do pet sitting on the sides. I go and I volunteer to do hospice, nail trims on dogs that people can no longer bring to the hospital.
Wait, after you nail trim, start over, please.
Oh, any kind of hospice type of care, euthanasias, nail trims that have to be traveling to the house. I have multiple people that 100% trust me to watch their pets spend the night and be there for them. So I just feel like continuing this is it's not helping at all. So.
Thank you. Anything further?
No.
All right, thank you. Ms. Solikoff, would you like to ask any questions?
Sure. All right, so you've been on probation since July 21st, 2016, right?
Yeah.
So a little over 2 years.
Yeah.
Now, your packet doesn't include any certificate. Well, now, do you have as one of your requirements in your probation to complete continuing education?
When I wrote I feel like when I wrote, because I asked, because in my packet it has a section where you're supposed to have, and she said that I do not have that as a requirement.
Right. Okay, but you do have a requirement to do that just for your general
license.
Okay, and there's one kind of weird rule here, which is because this is being taken down by a court reporter, we each have to let each other finish speaking before we speak.
Okay.
So you do have to take continuing education courses just to keep your license current, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And your packet doesn't include any certificates of completion of continuation courses, which is okay, but my question to you is, are you in compliance with your continuing education courses that you need to take to continue your license?
Last time I checked, yes.
How many continuing education courses or hours do you have currently?
I don't know off the top of my head. When I checked in last time, I don't know who I was emailing. They said that it wasn't due yet because of when I got my license and when my birthday is. So that's something that I do need to check to see where I'm at with that.
Have you taken any continuing education classes in the last 6 months?
In the last 6 months, no.
Have you taken any continuation classes in the last year?
In the last year, no.
Have you taken any continuing education classes in the last 18 months?
I would probably not, but I'd have to check the date of the last conference, which I think was in there. The one that is on the letter, they were not able to send me after all because we had somebody quit.
Okay, so that was going to be another question I had. So you did not attend the conference from June 28th to July 1st, 2018?
No, and I have another one lined up that was supposed to cover my CE, which is in Georgia. And I just talked to them yesterday to try to get information because she wants to send me to Florida instead. But I told her that I would like to go to Georgia because I need to get those CE classes. So the dates I need to check because I need to see where I'm falling in there. But all I know is that when I talked to the lady regarding the CE, she said I still had so much time.
Okay, and so when you're saying you talked to the lady, you're talking about you talked to somebody at the Veterinary Medical Board? Is that the lady that you're talking to?
Either there or my probation person here, I believe. Or she might have redirected me to somebody else.
Okay, so it's someone within the Veterinary Medical Board that
Yeah.
you're referring to. And so what was the last continuing education hour that you are credited for, that you've taken?
I don't think I wrote it in there. I'd have to look for it in my phone. I took a picture of the conference. It was the avian intubation lab and the bird emergency lab at, I think it was Florida 2 years ago.
Okay. All right, so.
Or Portland. It might have been Portland.
And you mentioned that you work a lot. Are you currently working full-time?
Yes, I work salary. I work 5 days a week right now.
Okay, and what are your hours?
Anywhere from 7 in the morning till about 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
And you mentioned some volunteering. You do volunteering?
Yeah, I'll volunteer to do, like I said, nail trims. If anybody that's close that the hospital's okay with, I will go and put a catheter in for euthanasia. I've euthanized the doctors that I work with, their pets, when they're not able to do it themselves. I'll go to their house with them.
How many hours do you say that you spend volunteering per month on average?
Per month? Probably about 4 or 5 that are not paid. The other ones are paid, so I wouldn't consider that volunteering, even though sometimes I don't really want to go. But I'll do it because I committed to it, and she has a lot of animals.
And when you say she has a lot of animals, are you referring to your employer?
No, it's another lady that I do every other weekend for. She's an older lady that has probably about 9 pets, hospice cats that need fluids and nail trims, and that she can't do by herself because they're aggressive.
Is she a veterinarian?
No, she's a client from the hospital that I work at, and she used to work at a shelter, so she takes a lot of the feral cats home for hospice. She kind of has a little hospice care place at her house.
Okay. Do you do any supervising?
I am the supervisor where I work, but I don't sign anybody's paperwork if they're trying to come through for a school. And I've told my bosses that from what I understand, I don't think I'm allowed to do that.
Who do you supervise?
I just supervise the people that work there at the hospital. So the other technicians that are training, basically everybody.
Except for the
Except for
veterinary.
Well, yeah, I don't supervise them medically, I just supervise them with, when it comes to like, kind of the flow. You need to get in your room, or if an emergency came in, make sure you see this one first, or.
So sort of managing the office?
Yeah.
So you indicate that you said that you don't feel like it's helping you being on probation. I think those are your words. You don't feel like it's helping you. Do you feel like you've been rehabilitated?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Okay. When you say a long time ago, what do you mean?
I would say 5 years into my AA and sobriety that I felt pretty confident that I can handle almost anything without having to take a drink.
So do you consider yourself an alcoholic?
I would say, if by the definition of alcoholism, that yes.
And are you a recovering alcoholic at this point?
Yes.
When was the last time you had any alcohol that you drank?
That I drank, other than twice, there was a time where they accidentally spiked. They didn't tell me that the thing at the wedding had, and that was, I don't even know how many years ago, and he thought it was funny and he was laughing, and I was telling him that it wasn't funny at all.
Was that in 2016, the wedding that you attended?
No, I don't know. I don't exactly know when that was.
Okay. You missed 5 calls for drug testing that you provided no excuse. You have.
They never told me that I've been through a couple different people that have been keeping track. The first person that I had.
You need to be a little bit more
sorry.
specific. Who are you? Are you talking about people who you've spoken with from the Veterinary Medical Board?
The lady that's in charge of my case.
So your probation monitor?
Yeah.
Okay.
The first one wasn't very clear on a lot of things, and I feel like I may have even maybe written her something and maybe she didn't save it. I know that I usually call right away or email right away to say that I wasn't able to make it for whatever reason.
So are you saying that when the allegation is, or the statement is that you provided no excuse, are you contesting that? Are you saying that you think you did provide an excuse, but it's not documented?
Like, do you mean when I didn't check in, or when I checked in but it was?
You missed 5 calls for a drug test. You were asked to test on at least 5 occasions that you did not test.
That might have been when I don't check in, but then the next day it tells me that I was supposed to go in. But by that time, they tell me that it's too late.
And is it your position, is it your statement that you're not calling in because too much was going on at work and you just missed it, you overlooked it?
For that one, yes. There will be days where I don't check in before 3 o'clock.
Now, you tested positive for alcohol on 3 occasions. You say you don't recall those 3 occasions. You recall one occasion where you stated that you think the reason for the positive alcohol test was that you had been using products that had alcohol in them. Is that correct?
That one, yes. That one was definitely, I was sick and taking a lot of medications.
Okay, do you recall if that one was in October of 2016? Was that the time that you're referring to now?
I wouldn't be able to tell you, but I can look through my phone, because what the lady told me was to go through and see text messages or anything that you can do social media to try to find out exactly the date, because when I did find out that it was positive, it was probably a month or 2 months later.
Okay.
And I went through my phone and I saw pictures of basically in my room with my girlfriend's baby, and we were reading books to the guinea pigs.
Well, so you tested positive on October 24th, 2016. Does that date have any, or does October 23rd, 2016 have any particular meaning to you? Was there any birthdays, any celebrations that occurred that would normally occur at those times?
No.
You've also tested positive on April 22nd, 2017. Does that month and day have any significance?
None of these days have any significance.
And then the third time was June 11th, 2017.
Yeah, I mean, if they would have told me earlier, maybe I could have looked back to see if there was a possibility that there was something different that day, but I'm not aware of any of these.
Well, you were given notification of the issues, let me finish, of the issues regarding you being, you were given these dates recently, relatively recently, right?
Oh, wait.
You're aware of these 3 days that you positively test?
I know I was aware of some dates that I missed testing, but not aware of recently of testing that I was positive for.
So are you saying that right now, today is the first time you've learned that you tested positive for alcohol on 3 occasions?
Yes. It's only the one that I'm aware of.
You have not received the first source detailed test history report?
I'm sorry, you haven't received the what?
The first source detailed test history report?
No.
Well, could you look at the packet that you have right next to you?
I see what you're saying.
If you direct us to a page.
I'm sorry, yeah, I was going to do that, right? I was trying to find it. Yeah, at Veterinary Medical Board, Bates stamp page 23. Do you see that?
Yeah.
And that says on October 24th, 2016, that you tested positive for alcohol. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. And then if you look a little bit further down, or on the next page, Veterinary Medical Board, Bates stamp page 24, do you see that for the date April 22nd, 2017, you test positive?
I see that one there. I don't know which one is the one that I was aware of. I just know that I was only aware of one.
Okay, and then just for continuity purposes, do you see on the bottom of that page, 24, it says on 6/11/2017, you tested positive?
Yes.
So given that now that you've seen that you tested positive on 3 occasions, and that you said at one point you became aware of the fact that that some of the products that you were using might have assisted in that positive test result, how can you explain the other 2 times?
I can't, other than the fact that I don't know if those were before I was made aware of the products or after.
Okay. And so it is your testimony that you haven't had any alcohol?
No, I haven't.
What is your date of sobriety?
You know what, I was thinking of that the other day. My sister gave me an iPod with the date engraved on the back. I stopped counting my sobriety after I moved.
From where to where?
I just moved from Corona to Westminster.
Okay.
And I got a new sponsor, and I kind of just, I don't know, I guess it wasn't as important to me anymore.
My understanding, and this is my understanding, is from people who are recovering alcoholics, that their date of sobriety is one of the dates that they absolutely remember.
Yeah,
So,
no, and I understand that.
And I'm wondering why that's not a date that is just in your head.
I'm not good with dates. I don't know birthdays. I don't know my sister's because she repeated it as a child over and over, but dates don't mean anything to me, to be honest. My girlfriend would probably hate me because I don't know her birthday or the day that we met. Dates really aren't important to me. I stopped receiving chips probably after 3 years.
Now, a couple more questions. You did have a problem with, it was a misdemeanor burglary. And that, well, let me just back up. Did your grandparents die in 2004?
I don't know dates.
Oh. Well, that's when you had the DUIs. Does that help you?
No. My grandpa died about 2 years ago, and my grandma died 2 years before then.
Okay, so in 2004 was when they got diagnosed with cancer?
Yeah, it's when they got my grandma got diagnosed first, sometime within that time period.
Okay, so then in 1999, before your grandparents were diagnosed, let me just finish, what was going on in your life which affected your choices and where you were convicted of burglary?
Yeah, that was different. That was just me being vulnerable, and basically what happened was I was at my mom's house and we were having a party, and I was collecting money for alcohol, and one of the people that I went to collect from said, "I can get it, don't worry, you don't need any money. I have a friend that, works at this gas station and he will let me have it for free." So here I am, believing his story, drive over there, and he grabs the beer and runs out, and I basically just run with him because I really don't know what's happening at this point, but because I was 18, I was arrested and he wasn't. And that's basically the extent of that story.
Okay. Now, what have you been doing to stay up to date on the developments in the RVT field and ensure that you're safe to practice?
I read the articles that are in these books. I have one here.
When you say these books, what are you referring to?
Today's Veterinary Nurse.
Okay.
I also do research online. I have exotic books at home. I do the training at my work, so I have to read before I train people. I have given presentations on dentistry. I have given presentations on rabbit husbandry and common illnesses, presentations on guinea pigs husbandry, common illnesses, bearded dragons, husbandry, common illnesses, how to hold them, where to get the drug, where to do the injections, how to give the fluids. I mean, I research all the time because I want to teach the people that I'm working with the correct way to do it.
All right, and what do you think you've gained from your probation so far?
Well, I guess it's a reminder, in a way. It was more of like a reminder that, I don't, to be honest, I don't know. I felt very embarrassed when I went at first. I got used to it as I went more. I guess the only thing I could tell myself was that, it's just going to continue to haunt me for so much longer. So if I hadn't learned in the past, it's definitely learned now that I do not want to get into a car ever, if I were to ever decide to have another drink. So.
Okay. I don't have any further questions.
All right, any questions from the board, beginning with Ms. Bowler?
This is just a general question. When on the First Source Solutions, do they regularly give reports to the probationers on, this is a generated report for a period of time. I don't even know if this is an applicable question to ask. I was just wondering process-wise, how probationers are notified when there's a positive test, generally, what should happen? Have you, and it sounds like, yes, it sounds like have you ever received a?
One time. They usually will, I want to say she probably emailed me.
Okay.
When you say she, who are you referring to? Somebody from the veterinary
Yeah,
medical board?
my probation person, the monitor. Oh, from what I remember, I do remember, I want to say it was an email, or maybe even, yeah, it must have been an email. I didn't have my address, my current address that I was at the time, so it couldn't have been an email.
And then my other question was, you received your RVT license in 2016, do you recall the date? Or is that correct from my understanding of the records here?
I believe it was 2016.
Okay, but you're not sure what the CE requirements are annually to maintain that license?
I know,
Quite.
no, I just know that when I knew it was coming up, because I was told by, I believe, the same monitor person, to just, I did research it, and I made sure that I was in the clear, basically, that I either needed to go get something done, or, but she told me that that it wasn't due yet.
And the last question is, you're asking for a termination, so I believe, right? Is this what this hearing is asking for, termination of probation? Meaning that it would end about 10 months early?
Yeah, it gives me two options. The options were termination or modification. I wasn't sure what modification meant, so I chose termination.
I see. Thank you.
Dr. Nolan, any questions?
Hi. In your narrative statement that you provided, you did say, "I feel that I have completed these requirements over 8 years ago and have continued to attend AA classes." How often do you attend AA classes currently?
In the last year, to be honest, it's probably once every 6 months. I've really dedicated a lot of my time to my career now, and I don't really get a lot of time to get away.
Dr. Waterhouse?
Thank you for attending today, and well wishes on your continued sobriety. I do have concerns about the positive drug test, but also there was a statement in your application that says you plan to get renewal of your license for CE through journal articles. So what does that statement mean to you?
I have some journal articles that I have circled and answered the questions. I have to go on, I guess there's like a website that you go onto and you fill it out and answer the questions. But you can only get so many through this way, and the other ones have to be where you attend.
Yeah, so I believe it's 4 hours that you can do through self-study, as you're talking about.
Yeah, because I remember at that time I knew exactly what I needed, and I started reading, but I could only get so many.
Okay, and you said you intended to attend the PACVET meeting, and what was the reason that you didn't?
Somebody was either fired or let go.
So you were required at work? Okay.
No questions.
Dr. Nunez?
I first have some questions for Ms. Sokoloff. Just to clarify, number 3, attachment 3.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, sir, for the process, it would be more helpful if we would continue and conclude the testimony of Ms. Salgado and perhaps ask those questions after we're in the middle of the cross-examination of the petitioner, if that's...
I need the answers to the questions
All right.
to ask her the questions.
Okay, go ahead.
This whole list of missed calls, those weren't really calls. Those were like notifications on a website for the respondent to call in, and she didn't call in.
Well, you know, I can only interpret the document because I didn't create the document, so it's,
Okay.
I don't feel comfortable completely interpreting it, but from my read, it would indicate that Ms. Salgado was supposed to call in to be tested on, for example, on page 021, Veterinary Medical Board 021. The first date, it indicates October 7th,
Okay.
2016, and
Okay.
next to that in details, it says missed calls. So my presumption is,
Okay,
I'll finish the statement. My presumption is that on that day, she was supposed to call in to determine whether she needed to be tested or not, and she didn't call in.
okay. And then on the results, every place where it says ethyl glucuronide, that's where she tested positive for alcohol.
On the pages following, specifically page 23, 23, in the result section, it indicates the word positive, which are the times when she tested positive. And then it looks the ethyl glucuronide
Yeah. And then,
and ethyl sulfate, I believe, is indicative of alcohol, but of course you need the presumption,
okay,
there's an opposition to that. But then on the next page, there's two other times where there's a positive, and those are the three times that have been identified as the times that she did tested positive for alcohol.
and then the ones that say no-show alert, that means she called in and said she was going to show up, but then didn't show up?
Where do you see that?
There's a couple of boxes that say no-show alerts.
Yeah, my read on that is that there was a test that she called in, she was supposed to take the test, and she wasn't, which is also indicated at, I think there were 11 occasions where that occurred. And she had given a reason for one of the reasons she's testified to was that she was supposed to test, she was planning on testing, but when she called locations to do the test, there were no females available for her to actually take the test, so she didn't go to the test. That was her testimony for some of those 11 times that she did the test.
Okay.
Ms. Sokoloff, just to clarify, your testimony is simply that you're reading this document. You have no independent knowledge.
That's what I tried to
Right.
preface this
Thank you.
with. But yeah, I have no independent knowledge. I'm interpreting the documents, and I concluded when I first began talking to you about the summary of the issues here and the events, that was based on my review of the same
Okay.
documents that you have.
So are there any questions for Ms. Salgado?
Yes, there are.
Thank you.
So when I look at all the missed tests you have, there's all these tests where you just didn't call in. And then there's all the ones where it says no-show alerts, you actually went in, but there wasn't a female present. Okay. Your first missed call was in October, on October 7, 2016, October 16th, and
That
then,
appears on page 21.
right. With those first three mistakes, why didn't you learn that this was going to happen? Because the last time it happened was just 2 months ago. I mean,
The missed call or the missed testing? Just the missed call?
you said that you don't check the website until after 3 o'clock, and then you just miss the test. If that happened on day 1 and day 2 and day 3, I think you would have probably learned that if you don't check before 3, you're going to miss the call.
No, I understand what you're saying. I have another person also checking in for me, so that we have two people trying to buddy up on the system. Even with two people, there's days where we both missed. It's not the, I go to bed pretty late, and I leave the hospital late. The first thing on my mind is usually oh my gosh, is this pet going to be okay when I walk in the hospital? And I try to get there early, make sure the IV line's running and that they didn't pass. By the time I'm doing the hospitalized, getting surgeries ready, and also training new people, trying to make sure that they're not overstepping boundaries, giving the wrong medications or doing anything they're not supposed to. I honestly, it just gets past me. I really think that if the system wants to, I really think they should let you check in until you can actually urinate. I don't see why you couldn't, because if I check in after work, I can go to the facility and urinate until 12. But if I don't check in before 3, I don't get to check in anymore.
Okay. That's all I have.
Hi. So my question is, are you aware, well, let me ask you, is your CE up to date right now for your license?
From when I called the last time, which was 3 months ago, yes, it was current.
Okay, so you are current on your CE for your license and for your probation, everything is current?
I believe so. I hope so.
Diane, is that what your record shows as well?
Well, it should be noted that her probation does not include a requirement that she take additional CE.
No, not additional, that it's just current for her license,
So
yeah.
since that's not in front of us in terms of her petition for a reduction of penalty, that's not information that I was privy to or looked into specifically before coming today, because that wasn't an issue in front of us in terms of the petition. But she testified that she doesn't recall having taken any CE classes for at least the last 18 months. So, but, being current means, you could be not up to date, and then maybe a week before it's due, take all the CE that you need, I think, and then you satisfy that period. I don't think there's that you have to take it regularly, as long as by that certain time it's done.
Mhm.
So, the fact that she hasn't taken any, if she doesn't have to have a certain amount by a certain day, tomorrow, then she probably is arguably still current.
Okay, all right, because there was a question on that.
Could we go off record for a second? Are we allowed to go off record for a second?
Sure.
Because,
Let's go off the record.
I don't know I think her probation monitor is available to be able to articulate whether she is current or not. I just don't know whether that's worth spending the time here, or...
It doesn't appear relevant to the petition.
I don't think so. So, I wasn't going to say anything.
Well, it seems like it matters, yeah.
I would disagree.
Yeah, I would too. That's why I'm asking. First of all, when people come...
Just a moment. I actually am feeling uncomfortable having this off the record at this time.
Okay, go back on the record.
Back on the record, and there's a question about whether, and Ms. Sokoloff, could you please restate the concern that you had addressed?
So, I don't have the answer as to whether she's current with her CE, but believe there are people in this room, her probation monitor, that might have that answer. However, because the stipulated settlement did not include a requirement for her to take additional CE courses, and there's not therefore an issue that she hasn't taken those additional CE courses. The only reason why I asked her questions about that is because she offered information related to the CE in her letter, but for purposes of the petition and of her probation, I don't think CE was an issue.
Yes, Dr. Waterford?
Maybe the question is, when does her license expire?
It's in the packet, 2020.
When does her license expire?
Can I continue for a second? Yeah.
So she got a license in 2016. So I thought they had 2-year licenses.
She's renewed it.
She renewed it, so her CE was up to date. for her to be able to renew it. Okay, that answers that.
She's up to
So
date.
now she has until 2020 to do all of the CE that she would, so
She's good.
she's probably
Okay.
still up to date.
Okay, okay. So for someone who's been on probation and admittedly is an alcoholic, I'm wondering, you made a statement that you wouldn't have a drink and get behind a wheel of a car, and it sounded like, well, if I did drink, I wouldn't get in a car. But it should be, well, I'm not gonna drink. So I'm a little confused, about the sobriety date not being one that is etched in stone, and then that comment, and then the 3 missed tests do lead, a little question about your sobriety. I listened to your story, and I feel like you convinced me, but then those things left a little lingering question. I'm wondering if you want to speak to that.
I had a feeling you would say something about that comment. I guess I only mentioned driving because that's what I got in trouble for, but it wasn't like that was, I think that's the only reason why I mentioned it, is because that's basically I'm here for a DUI, so the answer would be don't get in a car and get a DUI.
So do you feel that you can drink responsibly?
Probably not, because usually, at least from what I've learned, is that you may think you can, but the drink takes a drink and then the drink takes the man type of thing. I've heard many stories of people trying again and failing. I've made jokes to say, maybe when I get older and I'm done with my career and I'm retired and I'm at home, maybe at that point I would maybe dabble in something, but right now with where my career is going and where I'm at, it's not a good time to probably try to, it's also when things are going well, when you think you deserve to, I'm doing really good. I've heard all those stories as well,
So are you attending AA meetings or some kind of meetings of some sort for, as a group support or individual support?
I have friends that are in the program that I still talk to regularly. They live closer in Long Beach. Those are the new friends in the new community that I hang out with because my corona, where I used to live, obviously I'm not able to go down there as often. But I do have people that I can call, and I follow, I'm engaged in their life and what they're doing, and, I know how many years they have, and they post things. One's in New York. That was a really good friend that I grew up with, and he, I actually brought him into the program, so he always, texts me every year to tell me thank you. But I have people that I can speak to. I know where the meetings are at if I need to go to a meeting. I know how to look them up when I need to go. I do understand being a dry alcoholic. I understand that as well. I do feel like I should go more, and I do want to make that more of a priority. I also want to make having a day off a priority, which I haven't given myself time to go to the eye doctor, go to the doctor, do anything even for myself, because it's all been about work.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any further questions?
No.
Ms. Delgado, based upon the questions that you've been asked, is there anything that you'd like to add?
No.
All right, thank you. Then at this time, I believe that the petition hearing is concluded. As I explained at the outset, at the conclusion of all the petition hearings today, the board will go into a closed session and make a determination about your petition, and you'll receive the final notice in the future.
Okay.
Thank you, then. We're off the record.
No, I don't, I think she's excused.
Yes, and you're excused.
Let's take a break.
We're off the record, and we'll take a brief break.
So we're going to take a brief recess and take a bio break and get reset up for the next petition.
Morning. We are on the record in the matter of the petition for modification of penalty, termination of probation, filed by Megan Ripley Spears, registered veterinary technician license 12121. This is Office of Administrative Hearings, case 2018-070995. Agency case 460201741. Today is August the 30th, 2018. And may I have appearance first on behalf of the Deputy Attorney General?
Good morning. My name is Diane Sokoloff. I'm a supervising Deputy Attorney General, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 4887 and Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you. And Ms. Spears, you're here today and representing yourself, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. My name is Marilyn Woolard. I'm an administrative law judge. I'm assigned to this matter today to assist the board. And may I have the board members please identify themselves for the record, beginning with Ms. Bowler.
Kathleen Bowler.
Jamie Noland.
Cheryl Waterhouse.
Dick Sullivan.
Mark Nunez.
Judy Mancuso.
All right, so we do have a quorum present, and Ms. Spears, I think you sat through our previous presentation. You're nodding your head for the record. Thank you. And we did have a brief conversation off the record, but just to reiterate, today the board is very interested in learning about your rehabilitation, the things that you have done since your license was placed on probation. You'll have an opportunity to testify on your own behalf. I believe you indicated that you don't intend to call any additional witnesses. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you don't have any additional documents, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. So the board will have the opportunity to consider all the activities that you have engaged in since the disciplinary action was taken, the offense for which you were disciplined, your activities since the license or registration was in good standing, your rehabilitation efforts, general reputation for truth, and professional ability. We'll begin by having Ms. Sokoloff provide an overview of your situation and see if the board members have any questions about that presentation, and then I'll place you under oath and we'll have you provide some testimony. Okay? All right, so Ms. Sokoloff, do you care to begin?
Okay. I would first like to mark for identification Exhibit 1 of the original petition packet with the accompanying documents. The board members and petitioner have been provided with a copy of this exhibit packet, and the documents consist of the following: a notice to appear at the hearing, and then there's a packet prepared by the Veterinary Medical Board, and that packet includes a 3-page case summary of the underlying facts, which you do not have in front of you, which we will present to you right now. You'll be handed a 3-page document of the summary, or excuse me, it should be a 3-page document of the summary of the facts that I will be discussing today and that are relevant to the hearing today. It was prepared by the Veterinary Medical Board staff.
So for clarification of the record, should we begin numbering those with number 40?
Well, I think maybe just to make it,
we could identify
it's up to you.
We could identify it as Exhibit 2.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. You can proceed.
Okay. So that is a 3-page case summary of the underlying facts, and that case summary actually had attached to it the rest of the Exhibit 1 that you have before you, And that is the, attachment 1 is the license certification, and that begins on Veterinary Medical Board, page 4, which is in the bottom right-hand corner, they're bait stamped. And the license certification is a 2-page document, including the attachment page. And then next in order is the quarterly probation reports, which we're going to request that these reports be received either under a protective order or under seal.
And that goes, that is from page 4 through page...
No, page 6 through page 15.
And Ms. Spears, and the basis for the request for the protective order is based upon medical information, is that my understanding?
That there's investigative information from the Veterinary Medical Board, and it's her probation information.
All right. Ms. Spears, do you have any objection to my placing that under a protective order? That
No.
would, all right. And so I will do that to pages 6 through 15.
And then next in order is attachment 3, which is the petitioner's petition for modification, along with several attachments of its own. Her petition is 3 pages, and the attachments include a letter statement from Ms. Spears, and that letter statement is undated, and it appears on Veterinary Medical Board bait stamp page 20. Then there's also 2 letters of reference, one from Christine SIAO, and Christine is spelled Kristine, last name SIAO. She is a DVM and MS, and that letter is dated April 2nd, 2018. That appears on Veterinary Medical Board bait stamp page 21. And then the other letter is from Margot Mel, MEHL, DVM DACVS, dated May 7th, 2018, and that appears on Veterinary Medical Board page 22, both of whom have worked with Spears and speak highly of her. That's 2 pages. And then Ms. Spears' performance review, which is dated April 24th, 2018. It spans from Veterinary Medical Board bait stamp page 23 through 25. And then last in order in attachment 3 is Ms. Spears's resume, which appears on Veterinary Medical Board bait stamp page 26. And the next attachment in your packet is a copy of the underlying decision and order, including the stipulation for probationary license, altogether 6 pages, spanning Veterinary Medical Board bait stamp page 27 through through 33. And then there is an additional portion identified by Veterinary Medical Board, pages 34 through 39, which are additional documents received from the Veterinary Medical Board administrative staff, and those documents, we also request that they are either under a protective order or received under seal, and because those are medical-related documents.
Ms. Spears, any objection to placing those documents under?
No.
Your Honor,
Yes.
just to confirm, my page 35 is blank. Is your page 35 blank?
I have a head, there's a heading on it, but there's no information on it. It
Okay.
says page 2,
Okay,
but there's nothing printed above that.
okay.
All right. So at this time, is that, and then we have Exhibit 2 we've already marked. Ms. Spears, any objection to the board considering any of these documents?
No.
All right. Exhibit 1 with the 4 described attachments and Exhibit 2 are admitted.
Thank you. I'd now like to offer a summary of Ms. Spears' history with the board, if I may.
Yes, please.
Ms. Spears applied for a registered veterinary technician registration, and the board denied that application on January 8, 2016. Apparently, Ms. Spears had been convicted of retail theft in 2003 and had been arrested for a DUI in 2001. The board also learned from Ms. Spears that she had received a citation for drinking in public in 2001 and was cited for underage drinking in 2000. After applying to the board for an RVT license, the board's staff, on their own, entered into a stipulation with respondent, granting her a probationary license and requiring her to follow some terms and conditions. On December 6, 2016, the board adopted the stipulation, which became effective on December 16, 2016. That settlement and stipulation issued her a registration upon successful completion of licensure examination and all other licensing requirements. Once issued, the license registration was immediately revoked, and she was placed on probation for 3 years under certain terms and conditions, including submitting to drug testing, abstaining from controlled substances, and abstaining from alcohol use. Ms. Spears' registration was issued on May 2nd, 2017, and the period of probation is from May 2nd, 2017 through May 2nd, 2020. In support of her petition, Ms. Spears offers a narrative statement acknowledging her criminal past, including her petty theft citation for not paying for an item by not scanning it from a self-check line. She states that since that offense 15 years ago, she has not had any arrest, fines, tickets, etc. Her letter does not address the DUI or alcohol-related issues forming the basis for the drug testing and alcohol-related restrictions on her probation. She mentions that she has been gainfully employed for many years, maintained a stellar work history, and has attended many CE and seminars, including anesthesia and radiology techniques. She stays current by being on a Facebook group for veterinary anesthesia nerds and reads veterinary-related articles. Lastly, she's been promoted from lead floor technician to surgery service supervisor. She included in her packet 2 letters of recommendation from veterinarians for whom she's worked. Both speak highly of her. The board report or summary, which is Exhibit 2, reflects an interview with one recommender who said that after learning about her history, her positive opinion of Ms. Spears has not changed. Ms. Spears included a performance review in her petition indicating that she scored either 4 exceeding expectations or 5, the highest, for outstanding. Most of her marks were outstanding in that performance review. And lastly, she provided a copy of her resume, which indicates she has had jobs in the veterinary medical field since 1997, and her recent and current employment has been with VCA SFVS since 2007. Ms. Spears has been on probation with the Veterinary Medical Board since May 2nd, 2017. There are several terms of probation that Ms. Spears must comply with. One such term is submitting to drug testing. The conditions of probation included alcohol and drug-related requirements, drug testing, abstinence from controlled substances, and alcohol use. To date, she has not signed up with First Source for drug testing, despite being notified on June 21st, 2018, by her probation monitor, Sydney Villarreal, to begin testing. I'm now prepared to proceed with questions for Ms. Spears, unless you would prefer another proceeding.
Yes, before we turn to Ms. Spears, I'd like to ask if any of the board members have any questions for Ms. Sokoloff about her presentation.
Any questions for me?
Yes, that's correct.
What are these results we have in here if she hasn't signed up for drug testing?
Wait, I didn't hear your question.
I thought I saw.
Right here.
Yeah, what is this if that's not?
So you're pointing to Exhibit 2, is that right?
It's
that what
just
you're
loose.
pointing to?
VMB 034 is the stamp on it, VMB 034.
Right, which I think has been received into evidence as, no, wait, excuse me, so that's in Exhibit 1.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's behind tab 4.
VMB 034, that's not drug testing?
Okay, and what is, I'm unclear about your question. What is your question?
You said she has not signed up for drug testing, but what is?
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so.
But we have results
She
here.
hadn't signed up for drug testing until and then I received this documentation, which is a more recent description of her drug testing, which is why it's at the end of the packet. So this is newer information that
Okay.
I've received.
Okay. So the answer is she has signed up.
So she has signed up.
Okay.
Any additional questions for Ms. Sokoloff? Hearing none. Ms. Spears, then I'm going to turn to you. At this time, I wanted to verify, on our off-the-record conversation, I believe you indicated you have no additional documents. Is that correct? Correct. And you did not bring any other witnesses here today? All right, thank you. And I'm sure you're a little nervous, but I find that you're speaking very softly. If you'd be conscious of projecting your voice, we would like to hear what you have to say. So let me begin by asking you to raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Would you please state and spell your full name for the record?
Megan, M-E-A-G-H-A-N, Spears, S-P-E-E-R-S.
And Ms. Spears, I'm going to allow you to testify in a narrative fashion. If you have any additional information for the board that you would like to state about the reasons for filing your petition and why you believe it should be granted. When you've said what you would like to say, let us know, and then we'll turn to some questioning, okay? So you can begin.
Okay. I wrote a few things down just because I get nervous speaking. So the offenses that were listed for my probation happened between 17 and 15 years ago. I was in college and I was away from home for the first time. So I did a lot of partying and got a lot of alcohol-related arrests and the petty theft, which was at a local supermarket for not scanning items at a self-checkout line. Since then, I have moved cross-country with my boyfriend, who is now my husband. I'm a homeowner in California, and I have 2 kids, a 1.5-year-old and a 3-year-old that I'm the primary caregiver for. And I've worked at the same hospital for about 11 years. I am surgery service supervisor there now, and I hold a position of responsibility and leadership there. I haven't had any additional offenses since then, not even a traffic violation. I like to sew and sew handbags in my spare time, and I'm really dedicated to the RBT profession. I took and passed both my tests with a newborn baby at home. And I feel like I've overcome a lot of my poor decisions that I made when I was a younger woman, and I look forward to advancing in the RBT profession in my future. That's pretty much all.
All right, thank you.
And
go ahead.
With regards to the drug testing, I don't know if this is going to be addressed, but when I started my probation, I was never made aware of having to sign up for drug testing. Recently, when I filed for my petition, Sydney let me know that that was an oversight, not on my part. So I signed up immediately and began taking the testing. So just wanted to make that known.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any questions?
Yeah. So just to follow up with what you were just talking about right now, you know, your stipulation that you entered into directly with the Veterinary Medical Board, which is a procedure that's acceptable if you submit an application for a license, the veterinary board on its own has the ability to issue you a probationary license, which in this case, that's what they did.
Right.
And and then you entered into a stipulation with the veterinary medical board, and on page veterinary medical board, page 33 is where your term regarding your abstention from alcohol appears. And that term says, you shall completely abstain from the personal use or possession of controlled substances. And then it goes on to say, you shall submit to random drug testing during the period of probation. So now, you read that and you signed that document on August 19, 2016, right?
Correct.
Okay, so it did say that you have to submit to random drug testing, right?
I understand, yes.
But it didn't, what you're saying, it didn't tell you how to go about doing that.
Correct. I never received instructions on how to sign up or what company to follow up with until just recently.
Right, and you didn't receive any communication from anybody from the veterinary medical board until very recently?
Correct. Recently, after I filed for my petition, I was made aware that I hadn't been doing the drug testing, which I was supposed to be doing, but I had no idea that was something that was amiss in my probation terms.
Okay. And then, so do you recall when you were notified?
I believe it must have been maybe the end of June.
Okay, well.
Of 2018?
Correct, just very recently, yes.
So, and then after you were notified, how long after that notification did you sign up for the drug testing?
I think there's a communication email chain here. I saw that, I think I signed up the day that I spoke with my probation officer.
Right, so what I was going to ask you is, if you look at pages 30, veterinary medical board pages 36 through 39.
Correct.
That is a an email communication chain between you and the veterinary medical board probation monitor, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and from that documentation, does it refresh your recollection as to when you were notified that you were not in compliance?
It looks like July 19th, there was an email from my probation monitor explaining that it wasn't a mistake on my part.
Okay.
Just to clarify for the record, that's 2018.
Correct, 2018.
Okay, so you were notified or learned about this on July 19th, approximately?
Approximately, but maybe 1 or 2 days before that.
Okay, and then if you look at page 34, it indicates that you've been scheduled for a test on, you have to let me finish.
Oh, sorry.
On July 27, 2018, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so how long after you were notified did you sign up for testing? Notified by the veterinary medical board that you were not in compliance? Did you?
I signed up immediately.
Okay.
I called First Source and signed up immediately.
Okay. And since then, have you been complying with the requirement to call in for testing?
I have. I did miss one test due to, it was the first test that I had been, that came up on my notification that I needed to test. And admittedly, I was still unclear about the testing situation. I have 2 young kids at home, and it's extremely difficult for me to get to a testing center and have an observed test with 2 kids. My baby was sick at that day, and I couldn't make the test. I called both First Source and Veterinary Medical Probation Center to let them know, and then since then, I've made arrangements to have childcare when a test comes up that I need to go to.
Okay. Do you anticipate having any problems doing that in the future if you had to continue to do that?
It's a hardship for me, but I can make it work. I don't really have childcare lined up for my kids. I've had to take them with me one of the times. Luckily, one of the other tests I was able to go after work, but I won't be able to make it work, even though it is a hardship.
Okay. Now, could you describe your current working situation? Are you currently working full-time?
Yes.
And where do you work?
I work at VCA San Francisco Veterinary Specialist in San Francisco.
And what does VCA stand for?
Veterinary Corporation of America.
Okay. And do you, in addition to your work, if you have time, do you do any volunteering?
No.
Did you ever do any volunteering?
I did some work at the SPCA with the fosters, but this was a really long time ago when I first moved to California. Since I've had kids, I haven't had much time.
And where did you move to California from?
Pennsylvania.
I note a little bit of an East Coast
Yeah,
accent.
Philadelphia.
Do you do any supervising in your current work?
Yes, I do. Oh, I'm sorry.
And who do you supervise?
I supervise the technicians in the surgery and neurology departments. There's approximately 10 on a shift. So I'm responsible for making sure that the day runs smoothly, that they are taking their lunch by their allotted time, and kind of navigating any issues that may arise during the day.
So when were you issued your license?
I believe May of 2017.
Okay, so just really over a year ago, right?
Yes.
And in just over a year, you've already elevated to the point of being a supervisor?
I've worked at this hospital for 11 years, and I started off as just a internal medicine technician, and through the years I've worked in many different departments. And about 5 years ago, I was promoted to a lead surgery technician, and then about 3 years ago, I was promoted to a surgery supervisor.
Okay. And so you said 3 years ago you were promoted to a surgeon, and that promotion was even without having a license?
Correct.
Do you feel that you have, since you've been on probation, which was started in May 2nd of 2017, which is really just a little bit over a year ago, that you have been rehabilitated?
Yes.
And why do you say that?
Since leaving college and moving to California, I have not really drank, and that's what most of my problems stemmed from when I was in college. I don't consider myself an alcoholic. I do have a drink on occasion prior to being on probation, socially, but I don't consider myself to be an alcoholic, and I've maintained a great work ethic, and I am dedicated to the RBT profession. I want to be in this field, and so that's pretty much it.
Okay. So my next question was, are you an alcoholic? You just said no. Do you attend AA or?
No. In college, when I got my DUI and had the underage drinking offenses, I had to go through a ARD program, which is Accelerated Rehabilitation Program for first-time offenders. I completed the program. It included community service, drug and alcohol classes, and I completed, and paying fines. I completed all of those, and since then I haven't felt the need to attend any classes.
Okay. Have you made any changes in your practice after having been placed on probation that you'd like to discuss or talk about, or if it's improved your practice at all?
I think it made me more aware of how important the license is to me, and my hospital does hold journal club, informal journal club that I try to attend, and as well as the doctor interns. There's about 9 doctor interns that give regular talks. I try to attend those when I can. It just renewed my kind of renewed my want to be in this field, so.
And what do you do to stay up on the developments in the RVT field and ensure that you're safe to practice?
Like I mentioned, my hospital holds some informal talks. They also hold doctor rounds, which I try to attend if I'm in the hospital those days. We also have just started a anesthesia series, CE series, which I've been attending, and then the journal club as well. We often do get trainers to come in to advance our skill set. We recently just had a CT trainer come in to teach us more CT imaging techniques, which I attended. So I'm just kind of trying to gain all the knowledge I can.
And you just, I'm sure the panel's curious, as am I, what is the journal? Can you describe that a little bit more?
Sure, it's pretty informal. There's the nursing manager is the head of it. She chooses an article from the Journal of Veterinary Medicine, and then we kind of go over it, where we read it ahead of time, and then we kind of discuss just as an informal kind of roundabout. Usually, they try to do it once a month if we can get it together, but.
Okay. And then the last question is, maybe you've already answered it, and if you have, you can just say that, but what have you gained from your probation so far?
I kind of touched on it before, just kind of renewed my sense of wanting to be in the field. I don't think that I would have endured some of these things that I've had to with the probation if I didn't really want to be in the field. And even though I've been in the field unlicensed for a long time, it means a lot to me to have my license, and it's important. I worked hard to get it, so it's important to me.
Okay.
Anything further?
No, I'm just wondering, she's under oath, right?
That's correct.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Glad we did that. No, I have no further questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the board? Ms. Bowler?
I had one question. You filed the initial request for termination in May of this year, but that was prior to knowing about the drug testing criteria. What was your main reason for asking for the termination a year into the probation?
To be honest, it's the monetary hardship. The $100 a month is a lot for me with 2 kids, and I work full-time, but San Francisco is only considered 30 hours a week, so I'm not working the 40 hours I would because I'm the primary caregiver for my 2 kids. So it is a little bit of a hardship for me to have to pay the $100 a month for the probation. And honestly, I don't have a problem submitting my case studies every month, and my sponsor at the hospital is very helpful, and she's willing to keep doing it. But I feel like I've surpassed some of the things that have happened in my youth, and I've demonstrated to be a responsible adult at this point, and I feel like I don't need to be on the probation.
That's all I have. Thank you for coming in today.
Dr. Nolan?
I just have one question. It's regarding your application process when you applied for your RVT license. It says that you applied back in January of 2016 and disclosed your 2003 conviction and your 2001 arrest. But then in a letter dated March 30th, several months later, you disclosed the other 2 citations. Is there a reason why you didn't disclose the 2001 drinking in public and the 2000 citation for drinking under the age of 21 at the initial application process? Do you remember?
I don't remember, but I thought that I disclosed everything because I didn't know what of those offenses would come up on. I knew that the theft and the DUI would come up on fingerprinting, but the others were kind of like tickets. So I thought I disclosed them on my initial application, but it could have been an oversight that I added later. But it was not purposefully to be deceitful.
Great. Thank you very much. And then one other question about, since you are working full-time, do you have childcare for your children or family relatives or?
No, my family lives on the East Coast still. We don't have anyone here, so we've kind of rigged it a little bit. My husband went down to 80% at his job, so he can watch the kids 2 days during the week, or excuse me, 1 day during the week, and then I work weekends.
So you're juggling that,
Yeah.
sort of. Thank you.
Dr. Waterhouse?
So regarding your CE requirement, have you attended any meetings outside of the hospital?
No, I was planning on trying to go to IVEX in September.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the staffing at my hospital isn't going to allow me to go, but I think I need to get my requirements by December, so I'm planning on looking at alternate.
Okay, great. And it's great that you attend the informational seminars and things that you have in your hospital, but what's your understanding of what counts as CE and what doesn't?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know that the informal journal clubs and the doctor intern talks they are not race certified.
Okay.
I thought they were working to get the anesthesia series certified, but I'm not sure if that, I would have to check in to see if, I honestly, at this point, don't think it has been certified for credit.
Okay, thank you.
Dr.
I don't have any questions.
All right, thank you. Dr. Nunes?
Thank you for coming before us today. I know that this could be daunting, and I want you to know that I'm proud of your accomplishments and studying to become an RVT and passing your test and being an RVT. But this whole process, based on your testimony, I know you think might be a little bit silly because you're not an alcoholic and all this has happened 15 years ago. But as licensed professionals, we have to hold ourselves to higher standards because our job is so important. The pets that we take care of are precious, precious creatures to their owners, and we are trusted on providing the best care we can, which is why there are so many requirements that you have to fulfill to be a licensed professional, and which is why we have rules and disciplinary guidelines and so forth. You did sign a disciplinary order that did state that you had to submit to random drug testing. It looks like it was overlooked for your first year of probation, so you didn't have to do drug testing for your first year. I think the only way it was discovered was when someone was preparing your petition for a reduction in penalty. That's when they noticed it. And so far, you've taken 4 drug tests, which you passed, and you haven't missed any calls. So congratulations on that. On VMB 39, there's an email from you that says those 4 drug tests that you have take, in your opinion, is borderline harassment for offenses that happened 15 years ago. Why do you believe it's borderline harassment?
I don't believe that the drug test itself is harassment. The manner in which it's conducted is, I believe I have to disrobe and bend over and spin around 360 in front of a random person. And I am a very modest person, and it's a huge stress for me to have to do that. It's traumatic to me to have to do that every time. So it's humiliating, yes. I'm not a criminal, so it's very stressful for me to have to do that.
No further questions.
Ms. Marcuso?
I think I'll pass. Everybody else asked what I was going to ask. I mean, obviously, you don't have a sobriety date then because you don't consider yourself an alcoholic. How many, I get asked this every time I fill out an application for whatever, how many drinks do you have per month, kind of thing. So how often do you drink responsibly?
I maybe have a beer once a week, if that.
And that's probably before the drug test, obviously, right?
Correct.
Right.
After the kids go to bed, if I had a rough day with the kids, or I am out to dinner with someone, I might have a beer. I don't typically drink
All right, thank you very much.
Ms. Bowler?
Just a quick follow-up question. Under your order, your step, prior to that, it said abstain from alcoholic beverages. I just want to have you clarify your answer about when, to Judy's question about how often
Correct.
you might have a drink.
Before I was ordered the probation, and we went over the terms via phone call, and it was I have not drank since then. But prior to that, which was May of 2017, I may have a beer once a week, if that.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that.
Any additional questions?
I have a clarification question.
Yes, go ahead.
There was a question, I believe, from Dr. Nolan regarding your inclusion of the information on your application.
Yes.
And I believe the application asks for to list your convictions.
Mm-hmm.
And those two that you did not list, were you convicted of those crimes?
I think maybe that's where the confusion was, because the underage drinking offenses were like a citation which I signed at the time. So maybe it confused me that I wasn't clear on if that was considered I should have included them, but to me it was more like a ticket. So I maybe that's why, if I didn't disclose it, that's why, because I wasn't sure it was something that was a conviction. It was something I signed and paid a fine.
Okay.
So it wasn't clear to me.
Okay.
Any follow-up questions? No.
No, thank you.
And, ma'am, do you have any additional testimony you'd like to add based on the questions that have been posed to you?
No.
All right. All right, then at this time, I believe then the matter will be submitted for decision. As I indicated earlier, the board will discuss this in closed session at the conclusion of all the petitions today, and you'll receive your final decision in the mail.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And we're off the record.
I have a problem. Thank you. Thanks.
Is everybody okay?
Like a 5-minute break?
Anybody need a break? Okay.
Or do you
Not
want-
really, if we want to
break?
just roll.
Yeah, let's just go.
Okay.
You don't need a break?
Hold on 1 second. I need to get
So are we going to do, sounds like everyone's okay without a break? So we'll go forward with the next petition.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is never.
I find it more difficult with the RBTs. The real problem. To me, I'm gonna go back to
Thank you.
just say I.
Sydney, I'm not so sure they're supposed to get that 3-page.
Not yet?
Not yet.
You're talking about the, okay, you're not,
As soon as I introduce it, that's what the directive has been.
Thank you.
And this is your document.
Yes.
You're gonna.
So I have the original in my folder here.
Yeah, that's the original. This was the recent.
Immediately that.
Okay. So I'll,
You're gonna sign some words. No, you just say this is an additional.
gotcha.
Everyone ready to proceed? All right. Good morning. We're on the record before the Veterinary Medical Board, Department of Consumer Affairs, and we're here today in the petition for modification of penalty, termination of probation, filed by Jeffrey Jacob Hare, DMV. This is agency case IV 2016-9, Office of Administrative Hearings case 2018-070997. Today is August the 30th, 2018. My name is Marilyn Woolard. I'm the administrative law judge assigned to this matter. May I have appearances from the board members, beginning with Ms. Bowler?
Kathleen Bowler.
Jamie Noland.
Cheryl Waterhouse.
Dick Sullivan.
Mark Nunez.
Judy Mancuso.
And we do have a quorum of the board present here today. And may I have the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Diane Sokoloff. I'm Supervising Deputy Attorney General, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 4887 and Government Code Section 11522.
All right, thank you. And before we went on the record this morning, I had a brief opportunity to speak with Mr. Hare, and I know you have sat through the two preceding petitions. You've heard a lot of the advisement. I just wanted to reiterate to you that the purpose of today's hearing is to discuss your rehabilitation since your license was placed on probation. The board will have the opportunity to consider all your activities since the disciplinary action was taken, the offense for which you were disciplined, your activities since the license or registration was in good standing, your rehabilitation efforts, general reputation for truth, and professional ability. The Deputy Attorney General will have an opportunity to provide an opening statement overview to the board. When she's concluded with that, we'll turn to your testimony, and you'll be able to directly address the board and respond to appropriate questions. Do you have any questions on how we're going to proceed today, sir?
No, thank you.
And I believe based on our earlier conversation, you had indicated you don't have any additional witnesses today.
No additional witnesses, no.
You did provide me one additional document, is that correct?
Yes, so I believe they made copies. One of the requirements of my probation was to attend weekly alcohol counseling meetings, and since the submission of my packet, I've attended a number more, and that sheet is indicating those meetings.
All right, so that was copied, and everyone should have a single page that I think we'll just mark for identification as the next page in order in the package, which should be page 71, so we're clear for the record, and you can address that during your testimony. All right, so this would be an opportunity for Ms. Sokoloff to provide an overview.
Okay. Well, I would first like to mark for identification Exhibit 1 and ask that it be entered into evidence. It is a combination of documents, including the petition packet, among others, and the board members and petitioner have been provided with a copy of this. The document consists of the following: a notice to appear in this hearing, and that is from Veterinary Medical Board, date stamp page 1 through 3. I'd also like to include a packet prepared by the Veterinary Medical Board, which was a 3-page case summary plus some attachments. The 3-page case summary, it's an additional document, and I'd like to have it marked for identification as people's...
We'll do it as Exhibit 2.
Exhibit 2? Okay,
yes.
So we'll have it marked as State of California Exhibit 2.
Thank you.
It's a 3-page summary. And then attached to that summary was a 4 attachments, and those are contained in your packet. That attachment, the first attachment is the certificate of licensure, and that is on pages 4 through 5. And then attachment 2 are quarterly probation reports, which span pages, Veterinary Medical Board Bates Stamp, page 6 through 25. I'd like to ask that group be either admitted under a protective order or under seal, because they contain the probation monitor's investigation and some internal documents.
Any objection to having that document placed under seal?
No.
All right, now, a protective order will be issued for pages 6 through 25.
And then next in order is attachment 3, which contains the petition for reinstatement or modification of penalty, and that spans Veterinary Medical Board Bates Stamp pages 26 through 51. Now, that attachment is Mr. Hare's petition, and so that includes a variety of exhibits or attachments. The first is a letter/statement from Mr. Hare dated April 30th, 2018. And that appears on page, Veterinary Medical Board, Bates Stamp, page 30. The next, and that goes from 30 through 32. Actually, 33, because there's a service document on there. And then the next attachment are 2 letters of reference. One is from Roseanne Brown, who's a DVM, and that letter is dated January 5th, 2018. The other one is from Barbara Darnell, who is also a DVM, and that letter is dated June 15th, 2017. There's a third letter from Emily Lane. That is undated. And that one appears on Veterinary Medical Board, page 39. There's another one from Penelope Andrade, Andrade, who's an LCSW, and that is dated 4/13/17. And then there is another letter from Stephanie Lake, who's an intervention coordinator, and that letter is dated May 25th, 2017. All of the letters of reference have very supportive things to say about him, who speak highly of him, and support his petition today. And then there's also in his petition copies of CE certificates, which include online veterinary law and ethics, which satisfy 9 RACE approved hours, a CVC seminar in San Diego, which was qualified for 11 hours, an anesthesia of geriatric patients that satisfied 2 hours, chronic kidney disease, and oncology for GP from San Diego, which satisfied 12 hours. He also included a smart recovery sign-in sheet, and that document starts on page 49, and it goes through page 50 and 51. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that page 71 is a continuation. 71, which Mr. Hare brought today, is a continuation of that sign-in sheet. And that's where those two get to come together. And then, I think that's it. And then the last attachment is a copy of the underlying decision and order, including the stipulated settlement and underlining statement of issues, which is 18 pages altogether. So I'm happy to now offer a summary.
Yes, I saw a hand raised. Is there a question?
I have a question on Exhibit 2, page 3. where it says out-of-state licenses, it says Ms. Spears does not hold any license. As Ms. Spears was our previous petitioner,
Right,
I
this
assume-
was created by the board staff, so that.
I assume that means that
that's
Dr.
a
Hare does not hold any licensing outside of California.
Can you give us the Bates stamp page that you're referring to?
There's no stamp, it's Exhibit 2, page 3.
Oh, Exhibit 2, all right.
Or under out-of-state license registrations.
Yeah, so I can't speak to it because I didn't create it, but I'm assuming it's just a typo.
You don't hold any licenses outside of California?
That's correct, no.
Okay.
Thank you for pointing that out. If there's nothing further, you could begin with your overview.
Okay. I would now like to just give you a little bit of a summary of Mr. Hare. He applied for a veterinary license. I guess maybe, is it more appropriate if I call you Dr. Hare? I'm not sure. Okay, and I will.
Or you can call me Jake if you'd like.
Okay. So he applied for a veterinary license on February 15th, 2015, and the board denied the application on September 2nd, 2015. He had been convicted in 2011 and 2013 for a DUI and having a blood alcohol content of 0.08 or more, using alcohol in a dangerous manner, and for being convicted of one or more misdemeanor convictions involving alcohol. He was represented by counsel, who's Bonnie Lutz, L-U-T-Z, and entered into a stipulation with that board, which was adopted on April 27th, 2016, and effective on May 27th, 2016. That stipulation granted him a veterinary medical license, or excuse me, a veterinary license, upon successful completion of the licensure examination and all other licensing requirements. So once issued, it was immediately revoked, and he was placed on probation for 4 years under certain terms and conditions, including submitting to drug testing, and which were all negative. Twice he was unable to because a male observer was not in attendance. He also had to abstain from controlled substances and abstain from alcohol use. His license was issued on June 1st, 2016, and the period of probation spans from June 1st, 2016 to June 1st, 2020. In support of his position, he offers a narrative statement including that he has satisfied the requirements of his probation, including continuing education, self-help alcohol classes, and random drug testing. He began attending SMART, which is an acronym, so it's all caps, recovery group in February 2016, 3 months before probation actually started. He is very involved and has been called upon at times to facilitate those meetings. There he's been educated about alcohol and learned about coping mechanisms. He also goes to counseling. He continues to see his therapist on a regular basis and states that it has helped him maintain a positive working and personal life, especially helped him with controlling alcohol use. His letter is heartfelt and indicates a person who acknowledges a problem and has been working on controlling it from having it take over his life. He indicates that he is in control of his life and enjoys his work, personal life, and community. He included 3 letters of recommendation from veterinarians who are colleagues. They all speak highly of him. Dr. Roseanne Brown, DVN, is a veterinarian at her practice, and she is very happy. Oh, he is a veterinarian at her practice, and she is very happy to have him there. She has great faith in his abilities as a doctor and his qualities as a person. Barbara Darnell, another reference, who's also a DVM, practices, and he practices in her clinic, and she's worked with him since 2004. She speaks well of...
I worked with Dr. Darnell prior to working with Dr. Brown, so I left Dr. Darnell's practice and then joined Dr. Brown's.
Oh, okay. She speaks well of his abilities as a doctor and his character. She has seen him in social situations and stated that he has chosen alternative beverages without any hesitance. Emily Lane, a DVM, was a classmate of his in veterinarian school. They have stayed in close touch since school, and she thinks he's an excellent doctor. He also included a letter from his therapist, Penelope Young Andrade, Andrade, who believes that he is thoughtful and a responsible person. She believes that his ability to practice veterinary medicine is excellent, and his prognosis is very good. Also in his packet is a letter from Stephanie Lake, a therapist who worked with him from February 2012 through August 2013 on alcohol issues. She says he made great strides, and she endorses him 100%. The packet also includes certificates of continuing education classes he has taken that I mentioned before, and his attendance sheet from SMART. Mr. Hare has been on probation with the Veterinary Medical Board since June 1st, 2016. There are several terms of probation that he must comply with, and one such term is submitting to drug testing. The conditions of probation included alcohol and drug-related requirements, payments for probation surveillance, ethics training, drug testing, abstinence from controlled substances, and alcohol use. To date, he is compliant with every term of his probation. And now I'm ready to proceed with questions unless you'd like to change that and have other people ask some questions.
That's fine. I just wanted to see if there's any questions for the Deputy Attorney General before we turn to her questions. All right. Thank you. You can begin with your questioning.
Okay.
Actually, just a moment.
Yeah.
You're done with your presentation.
I am.
All right. So let's turn to Dr. Hare. And sir, would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
Thank you. And could you please begin by stating and spelling your full name for the record?
Full name is Jeffrey Hare, Jeffrey. Last name Hare.
All right, thank you. This would be an opportunity for you to address the board in a narrative fashion, to provide any additional information that you'd like to about your rehabilitation and why you believe your petition should be granted. When you've said what you would like to say, let us know, and then we will begin with some questioning.
Just to kind of reinforce the points in my letter to the board, I feel that I've made a lot of personal progress in terms of my personal counseling and in the SMART recovery. Both of those outlets focus on finding underlying kind of psychological issues or problems or challenges that I'm facing in my life and the responses that I'm making to them, both consciously and subconsciously, and focusing on directing myself, catching that kind of subconscious and previously less controlled response into more productive outlets. And so, healthier lifestyle, more positive framing of problems, better responses. And that's, I think, the biggest change for me over the last couple of years is those kind of personal changes where I'm focusing very much on those, and that's important to me both as a response to the DUIs that I got several years ago and in the new challenges that I'm facing as a new veterinarian. It's a challenging profession under any circumstances, and so I have found it useful in a lot of ways, both dealing with my own personal responses to the difficulties of practice and learning and being a young, inexperienced veterinarian, and also in dealing with the challenges that present themselves in the hospital itself, learning to understand where other people are coming from, where clients are coming from, and making and internalizing and facing the immediate challenges that I face on a day-to-day basis. I think that I've done a lot for myself, and I think I've made a lot of strides, and I hope that that's enough to kind of relieve me of the additional burden of doing the drug testing and the checking in and the monitoring fees and the other required elements of this probation.
Thank you. Thank you. You may begin with your questioning then.
Okay. So have you completed all your continuing education requirements?
As directed by the settlement, there was 9 hours of race-certified ethics training, which I have completed, and that's the first certificate. I've also done another 15 to 18 hours, I don't know the number off the top of my head, of additional CE in other topics in this licensing period, including the oncology and the chronic kidney disease and et cetera. So yes, I've completed the required CE and I am working on the requirement for my relicensing, which is due in 2019.
Okay. Now, where do you currently work?
My current office is Rancho San Diego Animal Hospital, which is Roseanne Brown's practice.
Okay. And what do you do there?
I'm an associate veterinarian. Our practice field includes small companion animals, but it also includes companion avian and exotic animals. And so I am seeing all species with varying levels of consultation with Dr. Brown, who's an exceptionally experienced avian and exotic veterinarian. Other duties that I take on at that hospital are I'm doing some trainings for the staff. I'm in the middle of writing a presentation on radiation safety and radiology techniques. I've previously given a presentation on emergency preparation and first aid. And I'm working with the other junior or associate veterinarians in terms of updating protocols, medications, and other facets of the practice to make it more efficient and more up to date.
Okay. And do you have any supervision position?
Not officially, no. I mean, only insofar as a veterinarian needs to give orders to staff.
Okay. Have you been evaluated since you've been placed on probation?
By my employer?
Yes.
I just recently passed 1 year at Rancho San Diego Animal Hospital. Their evaluation was that the clients seem to really respond very positively to me, that the staff very much likes me, that they are happy with the level of medicine that I practice, and that the only recommendation that they have for me is on a financial side in terms of how I specifically organize and create my estimates for service.
Okay. Now, you touched on your you said your previous DUIs. One was in 2011, one was in 2013, right?
That's correct.
Okay, could you give was there anything going on in that time period in your life that could explain, or at least so that the board can understand why you maybe have received those?
Sure. So in 2011, I was still living in San Luis Obispo. I had graduated from Cal Poly, and I was living in San Luis Obispo and working in Paso Robles, which is a nearby town, at a veterinary hospital. I was active with the club Ultimate Frisbee team, coaching, and their social gatherings outside of the sporting were centered around alcohol primarily. I was getting prepared to head to veterinary school. I had already submitted my application to UC Davis, and I don't draw any particular connections between the stresses of leaving San Luis Obispo, going through a breakup, or preparing for veterinary school. I don't attribute those to the cause of the veterinary to the DUI. It was just a mistake that I made. In 2013, I was at UC Davis, and I was in veterinary school, And in that situation, I would attribute more of the pressures of education to the lack of inhibition in terms of the amount that I drank that night. Again, I take responsibility for those decisions myself. It's not an excuse, but that would be the primary personal pressure or circumstance surrounding that DUI.
Okay, so you mentioned that there were some pressures that, I mean, it sounded like you were saying that there were some pressures that may have led you to drink too much and then make a poor decision. What kind of coping mechanism do you have today to, so that you would not make a similar type of decision?
So the big focus for me at this point is prevention rather than managing crises. Part of my, both the SMART process and my counseling with Penelope Andrade were focused on finding ways to balance my lifestyle, ways to be healthy such that the stresses and the lows of my life were not as low and that I wouldn't face those challenges. I exercise frequently. I still play ultimate frisbee. I work in an environment that is positive for me, where previously I have not. I pursue and actively make an effort to connect with friends and to take healthy hobbies like running, like reading, like continuing education. And so in terms of the main focus, it's prevention, it's healthy lifestyle, it's balanced lifestyle. But in certain circumstances, there are very stressful situations and any preparation is not sufficient. But in those crises, I talk to friends. I have a girlfriend now that's very supportive. She's in medical school at UC San Diego, and so she understands the pressures of medicine, the stresses of what she's facing up to and what I'm facing up to, and she can empathize very thoroughly with me, and she's been very, very helpful with those sorts of acute challenges that I face.
Do you consider yourself an alcoholic?
No.
Okay. Do you still go to SMART?
I do, yes. I was unable to attend the weekly meeting last night because I was on an airplane, but yes, I still attend the meetings regularly on a weekly basis. And there's always someone who comes into the group that has a new experience or that has a challenge that they're facing that I can learn from. There's always someone that experiences something that may not be something that I face personally. I've never done hard drugs. I've never faced a gambling addiction. I've never had any of the other big challenges that we talk about in SMART. But there's always, how do we overcome these sorts of things? What are other outlets? What are other ideas in terms of preventing those stresses from coming about?
Okay. Now, do you currently work? You currently are working full time, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Do you do any volunteering?
Not at the moment. Right at the beginning of my licensure, I did do a Feral Cat Coalition Spay and Neuter Day. Which, to clarify, is a day where a collection of veterinarians and technicians come together and spend several hours together spaying and neutering a high volume of feral trapped cats.
That would be at a clinic?
Yeah, in a clinic, yes.
It's a little inside joke.
Yeah, that was an issue that came up yesterday.
Oh, I see.
No. Have you, what have you been doing to stay up to date on the developments in the veterinary field?
As previously noted, I am attending a lot of continuing education. Our practice has 4 veterinarians, and each of us kind of has our own strengths, and mine are in dentistry and also in neurology, and so I try and focus on those in terms of staying up to date with continuing education. So a couple of the continuing education outlets have been through dental facilities. I'm current on all my JAVMA reading, and I'm constantly trying to talk to Dr. Brown and to the other local exotics veterinarians about techniques and research and medicine in exotic species, because it's a wilderness. There's a lot of difficulty in terms of establishing protocols and establishing procedures for those species, and so I'm trying to stay as up to date through personal interaction as I can.
Okay. And what have you gained from your probation so far?
Yeah, so I kind of touched on it a little earlier, but the big focus for me was the personal control, the living balanced lifestyle, learning how to cope with not only my own personal challenges in life, but also the challenges that walk through the door at a veterinary hospital, and seeking the help of Ms. Andrade to deal with the various stresses in my life.
Okay, and lastly, you've been on probation now for a little over 2 years, right?
That's correct.
And you're wanting to have it be finished about around 2 years before it's supposed to be done.
That's correct.
Could you explain a little bit why you're asking for this modification?
Yeah. I feel that the requirements for me are, have served their purpose. I have sought the help that I needed in terms of dealing with the irresponsible drinking. Further, seeking out the help with personal challenges that underlie those sorts of potential problems, and establishing patterns for how to avoid those sorts of drinking problems in the future. I don't intend to start drinking when my probation ends, whenever it does. I don't have a particular concern about that, but it would be nice not to have to go in and drug test every week or so. It would be nice not to have to check in or to find new clinics in places that I travel for ultimate frisbee or for continuing education, and financial hardship. I mean, the last person was talking about her expenses, and mine are noticeably more. So I would appreciate to be out from under that as well.
Nothing further.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the board? Ms. Beller?
Morning. Thank you for coming. I have a couple of questions. Well, one is, in the attachment to base stamp 15, and it may be an error, one of your quarterly probation reports, I think it's the second quarter of 2017. It has, have you complied with every term and condition of your probation? And the answer was no on that. And I was just wondering what that was as a result of.
Yeah, so I believe that attached to this, right immediately behind it on page 17, there's a letter explaining.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Well, I wrote a letter saying that there would be, that was the first time that I was unable to test for drugs, and so I checked no, sent this supplemental letter along saying that my lawyer would follow up with a more complete explanation.
I apologize, I did not see that little attachment, it just caught my eye. And then, secondly, could you just let me know a little bit about what the SMART recovery meetings are like, and how long they are each week, et cetera?
Yeah, so each meeting is an hour to an hour and a half. The SMART, the acronym stands for Self-Management and Recovery Training. So it's a cognitive behavioral therapy approach to managing maladaptive behaviors, not only drinking, but drug use, gambling, sex addiction, eating problems, any sort of maladaptive behaviors. The meeting that I attend, and there are dozens in San Diego, the meeting that I attend is run as a group discussion, which is to say we go around the circle, however many people are in attendance. We talk about the challenges that we're facing. We talk about the various tools and techniques that we use to face those challenges, and we ask for support if we need it. And so, someone may come in and say, I've been trying to deal with my drinking, and I had to go to my friend's wedding, and I'm his best man, and, best men are expected to give toasts, and, weddings are very, very heavily influenced by alcohol, and I had a real big challenge, and the circle talks about, you need to be, when I go to weddings, I prepare by telling some of my friends, hey, I'm not drinking today, and you need to help me deal with that. Making suggestions and talking about the psychological pressures that we face, and trying to deal with the pressures rather than trying to go in and say, don't drink or we're going to make you feel ashamed of yourself. Don't drink, don't drink, don't drink. It's not so much a focus on not drinking as dealing with the underlying stresses and pressures.
And you've been attending those weekly since prior to, I think, prior to this court order, but also, and do you continue to plan to weekly attend those meetings? Is that going to be part of your life?
Yes.
Let me see here. I think that's all I had. Thank you very much.
Dr. Nolan?
I'm just trying to fill in the blanks. You started vet school, I think, in the fall of 2011.
Turn your microphone on.
Sorry. I guess I don't talk that loud. You started vet school in the fall of 2011. Did you end up graduating with the class of 15? Or?
I did, yes.
Okay. How were you able to deal with the stresses during vet school? Is that when you started running and doing those sorts of things, or because you probably weren't able to drive? I'm guessing you had troubles getting back and forth, and how did you cope with that?
Yeah, so I had been running and playing Ultimate Frisbee since the beginning of college, and running for very much longer than that. The social outlet of coaching at UC Davis was important for me, and Dr. Lane, who wrote one of my letters of support, was my best friend at the time, and she and I commiserated and shared the pressures of that. And so for the most part during veterinary school, it was physical activity, separating myself from veterinary school for at least a few hours a week, and keeping up with the things that were, we call them vitally absorbing creative interests.
Okay, thank you. And you mentioned earlier, you alluded to the fact of being in a healthy work environment, and it looks like you stayed in one clinic for about a year, which isn't abnormal really, and then moved to a second one. Can you explain the difference in your mind between the two clinics as far as caseload or just personnel that have made it better? Or?
Absolutely. So my first clinic, Shelter Island Veterinary Hospital, was a place that I had worked in high school and returned to on completion of veterinary school. It's a much smaller clinic, lower caseload, and my personality clashed a little bit with Dr. Darnell. We are friends. We will remain friends. She is an excellent doctor, but her mentorship style didn't work for me. Her pressure level was a lot higher. Her approach to coaching and managing staff didn't agree with me. I'm very type B when it comes to dealing with other people, and she's very much type A, and to use those expressions. And so that was a little bit of a clash of personalities. And my current hospital, the staff is larger. Dr. Brown is more reserved. She's more positive, and her coaching style suits me a significant amount more. I also have the other two doctors in the hospital who, as I mentioned, have very strong suits in emergency medicine in other areas that I'm not as strong in, and so working with them is a big stress relief because I'm not working on my own. My first job, Dr. Darnell and I split time, and I was working by myself some days in my first year of licensure, which was stressful.
And do you anticipate, barring any unforeseen circumstances, obviously, that you will continue on in this practice of Dr. Brown's in the near future?
Absolutely, yeah. This is the kind of staff and environment that I want to work in, and because we see companion avian and exotics, that's one of the big things that I wanted to do when I graduated veterinary school, so yes.
Okay, thanks. And then one other question, you mentioned fairly firmly that you're not an alcoholic, but you also mentioned that you had been responsible for irresponsible drinking. So explain to me what, in your mind, the difference is between being an irresponsible drinker versus an alcoholic.
Yeah, and obviously this is a discussion that happens in a lot of meetings, but for me, the best definition of alcoholic is dependence. And I'm not dependent. I don't feel the withdrawals when I get home after a stressful day at work over the last couple of years. I don't think, man, I wish I could have a drink right now. It's, man, I'm exhausted. I'm going to call my girlfriend. I don't feel the lack. As I mentioned before, I don't intend to start drinking after my probation ends. The lifestyle suits me, and I'm now significantly older than many of my teammates. I'm I guess past my physical prime, and so drinking doesn't work for my goals in athletic achievement. So for me, the difference between what I am, whatever that is, and an alcoholic is that I'm not dependent on it. The issues for me came from being in an environment where the first drink led to the second drink, led to the third, and there wasn't any inhibition on that process. And the in-between time wasn't a challenge. So that's where I see the difference.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Waterhouse?
And to kind of follow up on that, so I assume since you got your probationary license in 2016 that you have not drank any alcohol?
That's correct.
And did you drink any alcohol between 2013 and 2016?
Yes, I did a little bit. Certainly at a veterinary school graduation party, I had a glass of champagne. But in an extremely controlled manner, very infrequently, and not in response to anything. One of the big challenges for people that lose control is responding to stimuli with alcohol, using it as a Band-Aid, and that's something that I actively tried to avoid with help from Miss Lake at UC Davis. So yes, I did in between my counseling with Miss Lake and the beginning of probation, but in a already significantly altered way.
Okay. Do you currently have a counselor or a therapist?
My relationship with Miss Andrade is, I haven't seen her in a little while. I don't remember exactly when my last visit with her was. But other than her, no. I don't have a personal relationship with the counselor at this moment.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Sullivan?
Thank you. Do you enjoy the practice of veterinary medicine?
I do.
And you've already answered my next question, is what are your outlets outside of veterinary medicine, which I think are critical to all of us.
Absolutely.
Dr. Nunez?
If you were to go off of probation, the stresses of veterinary medicine will not end. I've been practicing for 25 years, and it's still just as stressful as the very first day I practices. Mm-hmm. So I implore you not to ever forget the things that you've learned. Keep on running, keep on playing Ultimate Frisbee. I'm a member of a performance country western line dance group. Those are my outlets. If I kept on running and doing Ultimate Frisbee, I'd probably be in as good shape as you are, but keep up the good work.
Thank you.
You mentioned that you have chosen to live a healthier lifestyle. What is a healthier lifestyle in your opinion? What is that?
Yeah. So some of the specific choices that I've made, have been to improve my diet and improve my sleep schedule. Veterinary school obviously throws sleep schedule and diet out the window a little bit, but recovering to a more balanced diet, going to bed at a more reasonable time, those are examples of balanced lifestyle that I try to live. Obviously, alcohol consumption is out, but even so, balancing the other inputs, keeping up with my exercise, putting myself in social circumstances, including at work, but also in my outside life in places that are healthy for me. I mentioned that the ultimate team at Cal Poly, as a lot of college student organizations are, is socially centered around alcohol a lot of times. And putting myself in social situations that are not surrounded or centered around alcohol is important to me. My current Ultimate Frisbee team is planning a party at one of the players' houses that is going to be centered around alcohol, and I won't be attending. So those are the sorts of lifestyle choices that I'm making to maintain that, because it is, as you said, Dr. Nunez, it's important to stick with the things that are working for us.
Thank you. Do you know Jamie Campbell with Feral Cat Coalition?
Jamie Campbell. I don't recognize the name off the top of my head.
Okay, that's okay. Just thought I'd ask.
Yeah.
Thank you for helping the feral cats.
Any follow-up questions?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So you mentioned, in response to a question by Ms. Bowler, I think it was, that you had marked that you have not complied with every term, and you followed that up with a letter saying that your lawyer was going to send a letter. What was the reason why you didn't comply? So that would be the first time and that I was unable to test when I was required to. I was in Santa Cruz for an ultimate tournament, and I had researched ahead of time several clinics that are on the list of approved testing sites, and I felt that there were enough in the area that it was likely that I was going to have an outlet there. And when I was selected on that, I believe it was a Saturday that I was selected, I called the local clinics and drove to one that didn't pick up the phone. And none of them had available male observers to do the testing. And so I emailed my probation monitor at the time, who may have been Jaspreet Pabla. I think that was her at the time, and said, I'm unable to do this. I can't. I've communicated with several clinics, all of the ones that I had researched ahead of time in the area. It's not possible. My lawyer advised me that she would formally write a letter in that situation. And so with my quarterly report, I just said, I wasn't able to fulfill that requirement of my probation. I'm going to attach the letter explaining, and hopefully that was explained sufficiently. Thank you.
Any further questions?
No, thank you.
All right. I actually have one, sir. We had talked about the exhibits previously, but I hadn't asked you whether you had any objection to considering Exhibit 1 or Exhibit 2.
None at all.
All right. Exhibits 1, pages 1 through 71, and Exhibit 2 are admitted. All right. At this time, then, did you have anything additional that you would like to add based upon the questions?
No, thank you.
All right. So then, at this time, the matter will be submitted to the board for decision. And as I previously explained, you'll receive your final decision from them in the mail. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're off the record. And at this time, the board will go into executive session, so I'd ask anyone not pertaining to that to please clear the room. Thank you.
So we'll go into closed session.
Yes.
But first, we're going to have a break, a bio break.
No? Okay.
We're going back into open session.
This is my only job, Jeff.
Yes. Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, so for the items for our next meeting that we are postponing is item 8, the discuss and possible action on amendments to the board and committee member administrative procedure manual. We already discussed item 9 was AAVSB and was delegated authority to the executive committee. We are going to postpone 11 to November. That was the presentation from OPES. And then the board members were instructed to defer any questions regarding the executive officer and staff reports to me, and I can answer any questions.
And disciplinary guidelines.
I'm sorry, and the disciplinary guidelines will also be postponed. So the board could either have the decision, make the decision to postpone it to November or have a separate meeting just for the disciplinary guidelines prior to November.
I think it needs to be November. We need to do
Yeah, I
that
would
in
like to
person.
make a motion that we postpone it till November.
Okay, then we need a second. This is a motion. Second?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion on that point?
Well, other than the fact that November's going to be pretty darn busy if we're going to do corporate and all those other items that we put off from last meeting.
Right.
So, but
What do we have on the docket in November?
I don't.
And how much,
Practice.
And
Corporate practice.
corporate
how
practice.
how much disciplinary work do you think we'll have? Because we could roll some of it to the next
Like
day.
that.
How much,
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, it depends on any questions that the board has had on the disciplinary guideline amendments that were provided.
no, I meant for the second day of our session, how many cases do we have any
Oh,
scheduled
for
to be
November?
heard with an ALJ or anything like that?
I know that we do have 2 that will be heard in November, but I don't know any other than that.
And then don't forget there's elections in
So
November.
elections. So November is going to be busy.
Yes.
We have
Okay.
about, we've got all of these
Yeah, well, some of those might have to get,
dumped.
put off till next time,
Okay.
till 2019. Okay.
On our agenda, what's the disciplinary guidelines?
So it's under 6E.
60, okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion,
We have a mo-
second, to move the disciplinary guidelines to November. Any more discussion? Kathy, you want to?
Aye.
Dr. Nolan?
Oh.
Yes.
I vote yes.
What's our other choice? Separate meeting?
To have another in-person meeting, preferably before November.
I'm going to vote no.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Anything, any other topics to cover?
I'm just make one more comment. I think that session alone is going to take at least a quarter, if not a half day.
Yes.
Okay.
The disciplinary guidelines are talking?
Yeah.
Are there, I saw what was in the packet, and I saw the new revisions. Are there, we've worked on these so many times, are these lots of new tweaks to the guidelines? We've spent a lot of time on the guidelines in the past, and when I saw these, it looked like some small modifications, but I'm not sure who made all those changes to them.
I think there's a
So all
couple
the ones
major
I
ones.
made, there are comments out to the side, so you
Yeah.
have an idea of what's going on. So hopefully, if you have any questions about that, it's just not enough explanation. We could,
Our president will get us
answer
through.
that.
Our president will get us through.
I think it's going to generate some discussion that will take time.
Yes, I agree. I don't,
Aye.
do we ever contemplate having a meeting longer than 2 days?
I'm game.
Have a
I
3-day
thought we
meeting.
ever contemplate having a meeting longer than 2 days?
We have a 2.5-day one time?
Perhaps
Except the
you-
difficult part is sandwiching it between the MDC and the disciplinary stuff. How do we do that?
Yeah.
Unless we do MDC, disciplinary, and then have a day and a half of board,
Have MDC on a Monday,
or have an MDC on, that could be difficult, but yeah,
yeah.
What's the dates of the
Or go
November
to,
meeting?
or go through Friday,
or Friday.
or have us meet through
Can meet
Friday.
on
November
Thanksgiving.
14th and 15th.
I like Dick's idea about taking the disciplinary matters first and then being able to have a little freedom at the back end.
We don't know if we'll
Not
need
sure
a
if
full
I'd
day
use
for
that
that.
word, but.
Yeah.
But if the disciplinary actions
Inappropriate.
don't take very much time, we still can't go to open session, right? We can't.
So if we needed to, could everybody meet on Friday, the 16th, if we needed to add an extra day? I don't know, I'm just trying to figure out, there's a huge list there of things on our agenda.
No, I agree.
Judy might not.
Are we in Sacramento in November?
Yes.
Okay.
My devotion is to this profession, so yes.
And then another per diem.
Yes, I can.
Yeah, I could do it.
All right, and we will,
So we'll see how it goes, but.
Yeah.
we'll contact the other
Okay.
members to confirm as well.
Especially if it was a half-day would be good, because traffic will be
Yeah.
pretty bad Friday.
Okay.
Traffic.
Maybe I can splurge and fly.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Well, that's
Download
also the
some
weekend
audiobooks.
before Thanksgiving.
yeah.
Right. No, I'm saying
Yeah.
it's, we've got a holiday.
Will the EO allow me to fly?
Yes.
Oh, right. That's right.
So any other just things to talk about before we adjourn?
Could we just confirm what else is on the November, other than the corporate, unless you, I just wanted to, and is there anything else we want to add to that? Just kidding. Well, I was thinking like process, to have a discussion about enforcement stuff, or,
What's the date of the meeting now?
Diversion evaluation member appointments,
Okay.
RVT drug compounding. Oh, I'm sorry. Diversion evaluation member appointments, RVT drug compounding, corporate practice of veterinary medicine, DEA facility license, review board administrative procedures manual, that's going to take some time. OPES job analysis and exam study, review Maximus diversion program costs. We've done that. RVT average pass rates, minimum standards for premises. We're not finished with that yet.
oh, yeah, right.
No.
Not done.
And increase in compliance and complaint trends. I don't know what that means.
So those are the things, besides what we've had to carry over from yesterday.
Well, a couple of them will carry over.
Yeah.
Right.
We all decided.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second, okay. We are adjourned.
Ooh.